They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge of name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm, calling out corruption. We'll stand tall for justice and truth. We'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, social change warriors and justice seekers. Welcome to Friday Night Lies, our new series that we just started. I guess this is our third or fourth one already. Time's flying, but welcome. We're glad to have you, and thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm Catherine Felton Page. I'm the founder of Social Change Warriors, and I am your host for the live streams on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and now Fridays for a while. We'll see how this goes, and if we have people that are interested in hanging out with me on Friday nights, we'll keep it going all the way through the next trial. But Wednesday and Thursdays is always happening for as long as I'm on this planet. I am a former police officer from Wisconsin, from Madison, Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin-Madison, my alma mater. And I am retired early due to an on-duty neck injury. So I've actually, sorry about Wednesday night, ladies. I had to cancel due to having some cranial issues this week. So that's why my eyes look kind of funny. I'm not smoking weed. I seriously am not. And I don't drink. So very occasionally. So it's caffeine. No, it's a bad neck headache. So I apologize. I may not be right on my game tonight, but I'm always on the Packers game, and it's Super Bowl weekend. So we're going to do our best tonight. So sorry about Wednesday. Last night we were giving you updates on the Ellen Greenberg case. So we will be standing for victims and their families for Wednesdays and Thursdays for as long as I can do it. And hopefully Fridays through the trial. So thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you standing for the families of the victims that we are gracious. They were gracious enough to allow me to work with them. And two of our cases are right here in Florida. So I've actually gotten to meet, I'm close to them. So I get to work with them in person, which is really an honor. And Ellen Greenberg is, of course, in Philadelphia. I haven't gotten to meet them yet, but I'm in communication I feel really lucky to be able to do that. And our other victims of major crimes and murder that, sorry, YouTube, I'm not supposed to say that word, unaliving, that we are feeling very honored that we are allowed to advocate for and actually help out by looking at police reports, looking at the autopsies. That's what we are doing here at Social Change Warriors. So we're grateful for you. Thank you for subscribing to us. Thank you for sharing us out to your friends and family. We are currently not monetized. We have not accepted even a penny in donations up to this point, but we are heavily considering it. So, and it would be only for program costs. So, or to reimburse a volunteer who has kindly made copies or donated to creativity. So we don't, I don't ever want to get paid. This is my volunteer life now. So, but I appreciate all of you. So tonight we are diving back into the Karen Reed trial 1.0. And we have already looked at Katie, the firefighter paramedic. That was our first week. Then we looked at Chris Albert. Last week we had technical issues. I hope that doesn't happen tonight. So we tried to view the end of Chris Albert and then go into Julie Albert, but we weren't able to do that. So we kind of went rogue and we winged it. And we talked a lot about the actual what happened the night that that Karen and the ladies, Jen McCabe, that they pulled up Carrie and found John. So I was kind of giving my opinion. Julie, craziest person on earth, asked me to. So I gave my opinion of what it would have been like if I would have been a patrol officer and it would have been my call to go to the house, to the scene and be there first before the sergeants, lieutenants and detectives. So we talked about that. And I was really honored to do that. So hopefully tonight our videos won't give us any static, but I did find out YouTube, StreamYard was very gracious. They wrote me back. There was some issue between them and YouTube. So I'm hoping we won't have that today. So again, thank you and welcome to all of you. So let's jump in and see what we can see with our friend Julie Albert. So it'll be interesting. In my opinion, I don't know about you guys or what you think about it, but what I'm asking all of you to do is, if you feel like typing in the chat, great. If you don't, that's okay too. You can type it in the replay chat or you can email me. I'll put my email up in a little while. I'm curious if you think she told the 100% truth from start to finish. Was she evasive at times, or did she lie at times, or was it a little bit of both? So I put up a poll. Here, let me pull that up for you. I put up a poll we haven't done one for Chris yet because we were kind of waiting to get through Julie so we could put up 2 polls. So I have a little friend behind me. I was fortunate enough to receive an early birthday present. My birthday's coming up on February 14th. I was born on Valentine's Day. So I was fortunate enough to receive an early birthday present. And this is my new therapy dog. My therapy dog passed away July 1st. So I've been not wanting to go there quite yet. I was mourning her. She was 11. But this is my new therapy buddy. And when he's old enough, he's going to start taking therapy classes. He's shy. This is Tanner. I'm trying to turn him around, just show his cute little face. Oh, he's shy. What's he shy about? There's nobody there. It's just me. You're looking at me. There he is. He's a wonderful, he's a Bernedoodle. So he's a Bernese Mountain Dog and a poodle. And he's the micro mini version because I wanted to go small this time. But he did pretty good last night, but he was on my bed sleeping most of the night. But tonight he's wide awake. So we're going to see how he does. Behind me, he likes to play with my hair. This is a new fun game that he's developed. So I'm glad that you got to meet him. Fluffies. Yes, Julie. He sure is. I brushed one day. He was not happy with me. Zeus, my son's Doberman, was not happy that I was brushing. He was very concerned about the puppy. He kept sticking his nose on my hand saying, don't hurt my puppy. Zeus has just completely taken over the parentage of this dog. It's really crazy. 91 pounder versus a 7-pounder. So it's pretty interesting. So if you see me doing anything behind me, that's what it is. I'm not messing with myself. Trust me, it's him, it's Tanner. So again, let's go. I want to show you guys what happened with the poll that we did for Katie, because that night we had about 40 people in the chat that night, and everybody was pretty much agreeing that she did what she was super evasive. I don't know how anybody could say she wasn't. And I think she lied a couple times, but was it a out and out lie, or was it like kind of a white lie? What do you feel about those guys? What's the difference, right? So anyway, again, this is our Friday Night Lights / lies, because I'm a big sports fan and I've always loved high school football on Fridays and college on Saturday, pro on Sunday, hence the Green Bay Packer fan hat. But I do hate to admit it, I do have my Kansas City Chiefs hat here, and I will put it on towards the end. Sorry, Philly fans. I know there's a lot of you that are, but my dad turned me into a Chiefs fan when I was about 6 because my dad did not always love the Packers coaches, the coaching staff. So he started following the Chiefs when they were trying to make a go of it in the 70s when they were so close to Super Bowls and playoffs. And so I've always been a Chiefs fan. I know it's getting old, right? If they win it, it'll be 3 in a row. It'll be like a dynasty, but you know what? That's okay. Whoever wins is going to deserve it. And, but the jokes about the refs, my friend's a Dallas Cowboy fan, and he keeps sending me pictures of the refs dressed in Chiefs uniforms, which I thought was very funny. So I shared with some of my Philly friends, but I like the Eagles. I love the Fly Eagles Fly. I love them. So this will be a fun weekend for all you Super Bowl fans and pro football fans. So that's how I came up with Friday Night Lights Lies, because I really wanted to have a chance to talk about the testimony in my own time, in my own way, and hoping some of you would want to join me from time to time. So let me go forward. Yes. Anyway, this is just my calling card, and you can see that on Twitter, X, or Facebook. I didn't take this down because I'm still reveling how these 2 plane crashes happened, and we were live when both of them happened, and it's so horrific. So I hope you've been praying for all the victims and their families. What a horrible ordeal. And boy, I don't know if I fly a lot because I go back home to Madison quite frequently to see my family, and I sort of live there like 30% of the time, and I'm down here in my Florida house 70%, but it can be 50-50 at times. So I'm on planes a lot. So I'm really nervous. As I get older, I don't know about how you feel, but I don't like flying as much. I much prefer to drive. Yes, I know. Fly Eagles Fly. Yeah, I love that fight song. There's several pro teams who have the coolest fight songs, and I just love that one so much. The Bears, I hate to say it, guys. Don't get mad at me, Packer fans and my friends from Wisconsin, but the Bears do have a really cool fight song. I really, really love it. So Julie says they're already trying to make Mahomes better than Brady. He hasn't even won half of. Oh, I know. I saw that. So I know I watched it while I was trying to play mommy to the puppy today, and I watched a lot of the NFL channel today because it's part of my YouTube package. And yeah, it's a little too soon for that. I mean, my gosh, Tom Brady earned every second of it. Even you love him or hate him, but I've always liked him. So anyway, so we had Katie first, and that was interesting, and we all really agreed that she was very evasive. And if you guys remember her testimony, I thought it was just unbelievable that she wasn't going to just come around and say, yeah, I knew her. But especially when she said, I think I went to high school with someone named, I'm like, no, there's all these pictures of you guys party together, you're buddies, you have the same friends. So that was really interesting to me. So we talked a lot about, was she coached to be evasive because they just didn't want to blow up that she's a family friend, and that she, she's the one who said that Karen said, I hit him, when we know she never said that on the scene. There's no way. So it was if you're interested in it, it's in our library. Please feel free to go back and watch it. But we all did agree that she was definitely super evasive and probably lied at times. So when I put the poll up on Twitter, these are these pictures, of course, that we showed, this is not just someone you think you went to high school with or that you might have went to high school with. They were hanging out partying well after high school together. So that was a really interesting lie, basically, and very evasive. So we took a poll, and it was, let me take that down there for a second. It turned out to be witness lied 43%, 2 and 3, which was witness was evasive. So it was 43 to 43. A lot of people thought she outright just lied the whole time. Many thought it was evasiveness and lying. And 7% of you said that she was 100% truthful. Well, someone mentioned to me that was either a mistake, they hit the wrong button, or they're related to the Alberts and the McCains, right? Because nobody else in their right mind is going to think she wasn't at least evasive. So then we had Chris Albert for episode 2. We haven't put the poll up for him. I was waiting to finish Julie, and we had tech issues last week. So we were, talking about the beginning part of Chris Albert. He was, what's a good way to put it? I thought he was very bland. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about that. I thought he was just very bland. He didn't really have any high emotions. He didn't, like Jen McCabe, up and down all over the place, and some of the other ones that will be seen very quickly, very soon. I thought he was just very bland. He really wanted to stick to that 12-10 time frame because they were pushing that Colin left before John and Karen got there, so they had to push that. Well, then, of course, in his cross, they were able to show that he was still at the waterfall, that he did not even leave the waterfall till 12:13. And then by the time he had to walk home in a snowstorm, that's going to slow you down no matter who you are. You could be a track athlete, and if you're trying to walk in a snowstorm, it's not going to go well for you. So we know for sure he didn't even leave the bar till 12:13. So that whole 12:10 thing just kind of blew up basically in all their faces, right? So, and all of us really believe that he was most certainly there when John and Karen arrived. So we never would have believed it anyway. But for those that were on the fence, and many people went into this trial on the Emily Baker live stream as jurors, which I thought was really cool. I watched her a lot, but I'd already basically made up my mind. So that wasn't going to work for me. I would watch her because she's funny as all heck, and she's super smart and wicked smart, as you guys say in Massachusetts. I love that, using that phrase, wicked. So then, of course, then they showed the, let's roll the tape, right? And I said to, you said to him, well, hey, you're still there. It's 12:13. You haven't left it. I think he said, do you recognize that person? And he said, yeah, I think that's me. And then he pointed to the 12:13. So we know that he for sure had to walk home. He says it was only a 5 to 6 minute walk, but snow, slippery. We'll give him 5. He probably didn't get home till 12:20. And so we do know that for sure then that Colin, probably did not leave before John and Karen arrived. So we got to that. So we'll put up the poll on Chris, and you can all let us know what you think. And so what we're going to do tonight is take a peek at Julie. So first I want to show you just a clip that this was on the news when they were testifying. So I'm just going to remove this for a minute and go ahead and turn my camera off for a second and let me present my screen to you guys. And we will just take a look at the news clip. I thought it was interesting. I found it today. And now hopefully we won't have static. Let's cross our fingers. And you guys, I'm going to come back. When I'm doing these videos like this, I'm in like this other tech room. So you can see me, but I can't, you can see my logo now, but I can't see you. So let me know that you can hear this, and I'm going to make it bigger too, so you can see it better. So I'll start it, but first let me increase it to full screen. And just type in the chat box, we can hear it. That would be great.
Reed's murder trial, her attorneys are using cross-examination to try to make the case that Reed is the victim of a cover-up and not a killer. New at 6, WBZ's Christina Rex explains who her attorneys will argue is the real suspect.
It's Christopher Albert.
Chris Albert is currently a Canton Selectman, Canton Pizza Shop owner, and the brother of Brian Albert, the Boston cop who owned the home where John O'Keefe's body was found on the lawn. Chris was out with the group at the Waterfall Bar that night.
Fair to say you didn't go to 34 Fairview that night?
I did not.
But he and wife Julie say they skipped the after party at 34 Fairview, which was actually the Albert family's former childhood home. They found out what happened the next morning when Julie went to drop off a birthday treat for her nephew and discovered the McCabe's, Brian and Nicole Albert, and Brian Higgins at the house.
Everyone was visibly upset, and I asked what's going on. And another maybe 30 seconds went by, and Jen said, something's happened to John.
The defense zeroed in Thursday on the Alberts as a well-connected family, including their connection to the lead investigator on this case.
You would agree with me that the Albert family is well known in the town of King.
We have a big family.
Karen's lawyers then shifted the focus to the Alberts' middle son, Colin, who they say came.
Let's go back a second, Julie, craziest person on earth. Let's go back a second.
The Alberts' middle son, Colin, who they say came home that fateful night after his parents, placing him at 34.
Let me go back.
The focus to the Alberts' middle son, Colin, who they
known in the town of King.
We have a big family.
Thanks, Julie.
Karen's lawyers then shifted the focus to the Alberts' middle son, Colin, who they say came home that fateful night after his parents, placing him at 34 Fairview Road with his cousins when John O'Keefe arrived.
Son Colin was not home, correct?
That's correct.
At that time, you had no personal knowledge of where he had been that night, correct?
That's correct.
Julie, I wanted to ask you you said I didn't notice that before. Are the rear windows down? How far back do I have to go for that? I want to show that again. I did not catch that. And I'm kind of intrigued now. I don't know if we'll see a clip like this again. I mean, we can definitely revisit it at some point. But I'm going to try to go back a little bit. So bear with me, guys, because I want to see what Julie saw, because I didn't see that. Sorry, it was by the beginning. Oh, okay. No, that's okay. Hey, we have time. We're not in any rush. So let me rewind. I want to catch that myself. And then we'll fast forward. Aha. What are they showing that for? Oh yeah, there it is. Interesting.
Cop who owned the home where John O'Keefe's body was found on the lawn. Chris was out with the group at the Waterfall Bar that night.
Fair to say you didn't go to 34 Fairview that
I did not.
But he and wife Julie say they skipped the after party at 34 Fairview, which was actually the Albert family's former childhood home. They found out what happened the next morning when Julie went to drop off a birthday treat for her nephew and discovered the McCabe's, Brian and Nicole Albert, and Brian Higgins at the house.
Everyone was visibly upset. And I asked, what's going on? And another maybe 30 seconds went by, and Jen said, something's happened to John.
The defense zeroed in Thursday on the Alberts as a well-connected family, including their connection to the lead investigator on this case.
You would agree with me that the Albert family is well known in the town of King.
We have a big family.
Karen's lawyers then shifted the focus to the Alberts' middle son, Colin, who they say came home that fateful night after his parents, placing him at 34 Fairview Road with his cousins when John O'Keefe arrived.
Son Colin was not home, correct?
It's correct.
At that time, you had no personal knowledge of where he had been that night, correct?
That's correct.
Since that time, you know that he was at your brother Brian's house that night, Brian Albert.
It's correct.
And the defense has said in past hearings that Colin Albert, who was a teenager at the time, is one of their three suspects, along with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. Now, Colin's mom, Julie, will be back on the stand for cross-examination first thing tomorrow morning. In Dedham, Christina Rex, WBZ News.
And you can watch all of the testimony in Karen Reed's murder trial live on CBS News Boston. You'll find our streaming service on the CBS.
Okay. Well, that was good. I picked that up today because I thought, well, this is good. This was the news the night after Chris Albert was done testifying, or Julie's first night, I think, and then then they go into cross the next day. So, so whose car do you think that is? Is that Brian Albert's Ford Edge? Because remember, Lucky said the Ford Edge that he saw was light in color because he's colorblind. So he can only see dark and light. If it would have been that one, he would have most definitely said it was a dark Ford Edge. So I'm still of the opinion that whoever Lucky saw parked in front, the Ford Edge, light in color, that whoever that person is, whether it was Kevin Albert or one of the other family members who had a light colored Ford Edge, I've never seen anybody like talk about it or prove who owned it, or we don't know. So, but I've always hashtag Ford Edge with a lot of my posts on Twitter X, because I really feel that's the key, right? Well, there's so many keys, right? The fact that he wasn't hit by a car is key number one, that the dog bit his arm, key number two. I mean, there's so many things that exonerates her, or that at the very least is reasonable doubt that there should never have been a second trial. The reasonable doubt in this case is ridiculous. And all the lawyers that I've ever met or talked to or seen on YouTube, everybody agrees. I think the only one maybe is it Brother Counsel? He seems to be on the fence a lot with a lot of things. So, but I think he did finally come around and say that there was too much reasonable doubt. He never said he thought Karen didn't hit John, but he believed when he was with Aiden on Aiden's show, right, that he said, that Brother Counsel said, and he's really good. I really enjoy him because he keeps a very open mind and he just sticks to the law, and he's very nice and calming to listen to. So I've really enjoyed listening to him. But the Ford Edge is really an important piece because Lucky didn't lie. We know that man is not lying. He's not lying. He lives there. It's his community. He was so honest. You could tell there was, when we look at his testimony, there's no lying there at all. He wasn't evasive. He was straightforward with his answers. You could tell he really cared, and he cares about the community. This is where he's from. It's a whole different level of care than all of us have who do not live there. And sometimes I think that gets kind of messed up. I think people think that because they care so much, they care as much, but you can't. And when it's your own community, you care in a different way. Like my care for these two cases here in Florida that I'm working on, Jason Veach and where is Sarah Ebersol, I have a high level of care for those. Those are in my backyard. That one of them's in my county, one of them's in the county right to my west. And it's a different kind of care because it makes you feel almost matter at a different level because it's your cops, it's your county, it's your community. You can have empathy for others' communities and others' sorrows, but when it's your own, it's a whole different level. So I really do feel for all of you that live in Canton and the surrounding areas in Massachusetts, because you have a lot going on and there's been so much in the last few years for all of you. So much corruption at so many levels. So let's see here. What does Julie have to say? Karen is innocent 16 different ways off the top of our heads, but yeah, I mean, right. I mean, 16, we could list 16 right now that not only make her factually innocent, but that for sure you've got your reasonable doubt. And I've been in a lot of Twitter X wars, which I don't know why I get into these, you guys. I am silly. I should stop it. But I have to say I'm retired. So when I have time on my hands and I want to get on there and put it out there about the different cases I'm working on and the victims I'm standing for, I'll get in an argument with somebody for a little while. I kind of let it go a little bit too much because, again, these are people we do not know. You may not ever meet, and maybe you'll meet some of them that you've befriended and become friends with, which is great. And many of you have met each other because of Karen Reed and John O'Keefe and what has happened, whether you've just met virtually or you've actually met in person via being in Massachusetts or a state close by. But I've spent too much time arguing with the antis because they just don't listen. And I don't know if half of them are being paid. I was having very respectful conversations with one of the antis, and I really enjoyed it. We had other things in common. She was relatively my age. We were sports fans. But then she would get nasty, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I was never nasty. And I'm just telling you my opinion based on the facts. And I would try to say, look at it this way or look at it that way. But they always come back with the same old thing. I hit him. That's their favorite response. It's like, come on, that is so not proven anywhere, not written down, not even spoken about by Jen until when? The trial, right? That's impossible. If Jen is so much a fan of John's and such a good friend, and I love John, we can't wait to get to her testimony. That's going to be crazy. To pick her apart like we do with a fine tooth comb, then why didn't you say something? And when we talked about Katie, no way is she not going to say something. If somebody is on the scene saying, I think I did this, that person is going to be taken away, put in a car, not necessarily handcuffed like a lot of people were saying in the chat, because there'd be no reason to handcuff her at that moment because she wasn't combative. She was very upset. But they would have at least questioned her in a squad car, separated her right away from Jen and Carrie, and then separated Jen and Carrie from each other right away, because you've got witnesses to a potential crime here. Someone's admitting, I hit him. But that was all ignored because it never happened, right? We know that never happened. So the antis just love to go down that track right away. And most of them have no experience in policing or any kind of counseling, like what it's like to be in a traumatic situation like that for people. If you've never been in one yourself, your brain is flooded with cortisol, your body is flooded with cortisol, and you're in fight or flight. It's really, if you've ever been in an emergency scene with a loved one, or you get that horrible call and you feel like you're going to throw up, pass out, faint, that's your body responding to stress. And so when people make comments about, people say all kinds of things under duress, under stress. It happens all the time. So hey, clerk, nice to see you, Clerk Jim Clown. Much of the CW is manufactured, reactionary to something. Yes, absolutely. No doubt. And Jim says, hi. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it a lot. Karen is innocent in 16 different ways. I love that. But we can absolutely, later, let's name them all, because I bet we get to higher than 16. And I'm pretty sure Olivia Lambo, who's really amazing on Twitter X, I would love to have her on the show. If anyone knows her, ask her if she would consider coming on Friday Night Lights. I would love to talk to her. Her accounting of everything is so precise and so amazing. And I know she pays extra because you only get those 280 letters. So I pay extra too, because there's times when I'm talking about our victims and their families and I want to say more than I can, which is not unusual for me. All my friends and family know that about me. So of course I'm not going to go within the guidelines of Twitter X 280. I'm going to pay that $9 so I can say more, right? So anyway, let us go forward. Let's listen to a little bit of Julie, and then I'll pause it and we can chat about it. Jim says, whenever I make that point when she's in the chat, I preface with Olivia has solved this case 16 different. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's cool. Maybe she did make a list with 16. Is that where you guys are getting the 16 from? But I bet we can come up with more if we needed to. But again, the whole thing is in many of the, I kind of missed my point because I got down a track. When I argue with the antis, I always say, it doesn't matter who did it or how it was done or what, when, where, how right now. It's about reasonable doubt. This is America, and the jury has to be able to say beyond a reasonable doubt, I am convicting this person. And in Massachusetts, you all have that extra step, that extra level, which is to moral certainty, which a lot of states don't have. I don't think Wisconsin has that. I'm going to have to look into that, but I don't think they do. So when you've got to take reasonable doubt and then add the moral certainty, how in the world did anybody not find her not guilty? I'm still completely blown away by how that case ended and that we have to go through a second trial. Part of me thought for sure somebody was going to crack and admit that they saw it or they were there, or they're tired of hiding, tired of lying basically all the time. So but yeah, so let's take a peek. I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and let's hope that we don't get any static like we did last week. So far so good with the news clip I showed. So let's take a look at this. Will be Lally, who will put us to sleep. Glad I have some caffeine in my iced tea. I had my once a week pop last night. I'm trying to cut back on, I don't drink a lot of pop, but I gave it up for like 7 years. I was having stomach issues, so I did not drink any soda for like 7 years, which was hard to even imagine that I did that. But once I got used to it, it was all good. But then I broke down and had a Diet Coke one day, and now I'm back at least trying to do one a week because I crave it, which is terrible, right? So there's our fan. Who doesn't love the fan? So let's get started, and I'm going to make sure you guys can see this. Let's see here. I got to go to day 8. Share. There we go. And I think you can see it now. Hopefully we won't have any static. Let me make it bigger for everybody. All right. And let's just type in the chat box. Yes, we can hear it. And I'll just let us see the fan for a few minutes. I'm sure I did not watch live yesterday. I was busy with the puppy, but I did see some of the news releases, so I'm sure they showed the fan. I just find it hysterical how a fan has become so famous. I think we're waiting for everybody to come in. Let me go forward. Oh yeah, there we go. There she is, our favorite judge. Not. There we go. Only fan. Yes, I love that.
Thank you. Please be seated. Goes back to session.
All right, Mr. Lally, your next witness, please.
May we approach before the next witness is called, Your Honor?
Oh boy.
Okay.
I forgot about that, but there was something right out of the gate. So let us go forward here. I don't recall how long this was. There's Karen. Oh, not too long. So we'll just go back. There we go. Good. Yeah, I think there was major tech issues last week, but I'm glad we winged it and did what we did. So, all right, here we go, Julie. Everybody, take notes, and about every
All right,
5
so
minutes.
Mr. Lally,
we'll
who's
stop
your
and
next
discuss.
witness?
We'll call Miss Julie Albert to the stand.
Okay.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case down here should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
If you guys ever want me to skip forward because it's just something you don't need to review, you just type in the box. I have no problem doing that. I know we all
All right,
want
whenever you're ready,
cross,
Mr. Lally.
so.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Julie Albert, Albert.
And where do you live now?
I live at 22 Maple Street in Canton.
And how long have you lived with you?
A little over 2 years,
And how long in total have you lived in Canton?
my whole life, 48 years.
And where did you live just prior to living on Maple?
I lived at 7 Meadows Avenue in Canton.
And how long a period of time did you live at 7 Meadows Avenue?
15 plus 20 years, about 20 years.
And do you have kids?
Yes, I have 3 boys.
And are you married?
Yes, I am.
What's your husband's name?
Christopher Albert.
And your 3 boys, how old are you?
My oldest, Christopher, is 25. My second son, Colin,
Yeah,
is
she's
20.
definitely chewing
And my
gum.
youngest son, Dylan,
Yeah, I
is
caught that the first
16.
time too. At least I think she is,
And
unless she's
do
got
each of
cotton
them,
mouth.
where do they live? Do they live with you?
They all live with me. Yes.
And your husband, does he work?
Yes.
What does he do?
He owns a restaurant in Canton,
What's the name of the restaurant?
D&E Pizza,
And where is that located?
618 Washington Street.
Now, when you lived on Meadows Avenue, can you describe to the jury sort of, if you know, about how many houses were on Meadows?
I would
Like,
say
this is goofy,
maybe
right? Why
8
does this really matter?
on each side.
And Meadows comes out to a main road, is that correct?
Yes, Pleasant Street.
And while you were living on Meadows Avenue, did you have occasion to come to know someone by the name of John O'Keefe?
Yes, I did.
And where did John live in relation to you?
John's house was at the top of the street, and
Yes,
there's
you're
2
right.
houses.
You're right,
there was
Jim.
2 houses between John's house and my house.
And if you
Not as
recall,
many as
about
Tristan,
how long
though.
you know John O'Keefe, or when did he move into Memphis?
I think he moved in 2017-ish, maybe. And I've probably known him since maybe 2019.
No one seems to know this, but Amazon actually has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every single month. And here's how you can get a cut of it. My name is Charlotte Mickelson, and we help everyday people grow their income with this one simple method. And we're pretty darn.
So I have a question, because I remember this from the first time. Why do you think, so what are they, 2, 3 houses down, right? How is it that John moves in 2017, but she doesn't recall meeting him till 2019, 2 years later? I find that to be interesting, and I don't know if she's telling the truth there, because I just don't buy that. And the puppy just stole a piece of paper off my desk. Okay, he's bored apparently. What do you guys think about that? I don't buy that. Whenever I've moved, I mean, you don't have to know your neighbors super well, but you're definitely going to know them. You might say hi. You're going to see them on walks when it's nice out. You're going to maybe wave at them. I don't know about that. Let's see what Julie says here. I noticed that too with a lot of all of a sudden they don't. Yeah, right. They don't remember anything. Exactly. And she's into drama class. Okay, has done a great job learning the script. Oh, right. For sure. They were all prepped. And so that's what was so obvious during the trial. But I just don't buy this whole John moves in 2017. She doesn't meet him till 2019. Are you having fun with that paper? How'd you even reach that? Puppies amaze me. So yeah, all right. I'm sorry about the ads. I forgot all about upping my, I usually pay for no ads, but I did not do that yet this month. So I will get on that before next Friday. And let's see if we can we can't. It's not letting me do it. There we go. We're skipping it.
And how would you describe sort of your relationship with John O'Keefe?
We were friendly. We were neighbors. You know, I'd see him all the time coming in and out of the street, and because he's at the top of the street when I pulled out of the street, and we were friendly.
And in addition to you knowing Mr. O'Keefe, were there other sort of people that knew you that also knew him?
Yes.
Who were some of those people?
Well, I knew John through Jennifer McCabe.
And who is Jennifer McCabe?
She's one of my closest friends.
So you knew John through John, but he lived two doors down
You
from
knew that
you.
John had
This
two
is very
children that
right.
he
That's
was
weird.
guardian for?
Yes.
And you were familiar with both his niece and his nephew?
Yes.
Now, at some point through Mr. O'Keefe, did you come to know somebody by the name of Karen Reed?
Yes.
When about was it that you met Ms. Reed?
Maybe in like 2021, like, pulling in and out of the street if they were outside, if, a couple times out socially, probably in 2021, I would say.
And if you could, just so we're clear, do you see Ms. Reed in the courtroom?
Yes. Between her lawyers right over there.
That's a record of like identification
Okay.
presented by the witness. Now, on some social occasions that you were talking about, when you would see them out, would you have occasion to socially interact with Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Is that something that like you and your husband did together, or was it more of a group setting type?
No, a group setting.
And with reference to, did you have occasions where you would socially hang out or interact with Mr. O'Keefe in which Ms. Reed wasn't there?
I can only honestly remember one time, and that was, I don't even know if they were together at the time.
And had you ever socially interacted or spent time with Ms. Reed separate and apart from Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
Now, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
Do you recall what day of the week it was?
Friday.
And what, if anything, did you have plans for that particular evening?
The next day was my nephew's birthday. So we were a bunch of us were going to go out that night, the night before to a bar in
That
Canton.
just makes no sense.
By the night before?
Never
the night before his
has,
birthday?
never, I don't know what
Yes.
you guys think, but that makes no
And
sense to me.
that
And you know it's
nephew,
going to be snowing.
What was
It
that
was
nephew?
forecasted.
Brian.
It wasn't out of the blue.
Brian
right?
Jr.
And if you know about how old was he turning, or how, well, let me start with this. How old is he now?
He's 24.
So that's
So
24
just
years
turned
of donut
24 a few months
delivery,
ago?
according to Ms.
January.
Rules,
Yep.
right?
And so he would have been turning, what, 22 at that point?
Yes.
And when you say
22, I
we
guess.
had plans to sort of go out, who was the we?
Myself, his mother, Nicole, my niece, Caitlin, and a couple of Brian's friends.
Now, and you mean Brian Jr.'s friends?
Yes.
And so Brian Albert Jr. has a mother named Nicole Albert, is that correct?
Yes.
And how is she related to you?
She's my sister-in-law. Our husbands are brothers.
So your husband Christopher has a brother,
Brian.
Brian. Okay. And that would be sort of
Brian Sr.
for lack of a better term.
Yep.
Your husband
clippy,
Christopher,
aren't you,
how
Julie?
many siblings does he have?
6.
And Brian
He's
is
so
the oldest?
uncomfortable.
The oldest, yes.
Can you see how she's kind of clenching? See how she's,
And
I
so
know
there
she's
were plans
got
to go
gum,
out
but she's
that
kind of
evening, the
clenching
day
her
before
mouth at
Brian
times.
Albert
That's a
Jr.'s
sign of
birthday,
stress.
correct?
Yes.
And
When people
what were
do
the
that, they
plans
kind
for
of
the day
chew on
before?
the inside of their lip.
We were just going to go to Waterfall.
But she's definitely clenching a little bit.
It's a bar in Canton on Washington Street.
And from your husband's pizza shop at D&E to the Waterfall, about how far away are the two from each other?
Very close. I mean, 200 steps maybe. You can, very, very close.
Same side of the street or
No,
opposite?
opposite sides.
Now, when it came to that day, where did you go? Did you go to the Waterfall first or somewhere else, or if you know?
I went to my sister-in-law Nicole's house to pick her up.
And do you know the address where your sister-in-law and your brother-in-law live?
34 Fairview, where they lived, 34 Fairview Road.
And that was somewhere that you had been numerous occasions before?
Yes.
And when you arrived at 34 Fairview Road, you went inside the house?
I think I went inside for a moment, yeah, just to wait.
And do you know who, if anyone, did you see in there that you knew or recognized or didn't?
I know my niece Caitlin was in there, my nephew Brian. I don't recall. I don't recall who else was in there.
Your sister-in-law, Nicole, was she there?
Yeah, she was ready to leave. Yep.
And when you left, I'm using sort of you in the plural. So you drove, is that correct?
I drove. Yep.
And who, if anyone, went along with you in your car?
Nicole, my sister-in-law, and Caitlin, my niece.
So do you guys think that this was the point where the rest of the party, who the party was for, was Brian Jr. and for Julie Nagel and for Sarah, that this is when they said, oh, we're not going to go out. We're just going to stay home. I don't think they were ever going out. I'm just curious what you guys think, because I think this was all a way to get John to come and meet them so they could talk to him. I really think that is the case. That's my opinion, based on everything we've learned, but I just don't buy it that this kid was going to go out. They were going to do this the night before his birthday. Now, again, there was that blizzard scheduled to come in, so maybe that's why they were doing it, but it still just seems very odd that he and his friends then didn't go to his birthday party, right? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And Brian did not end up coming with us.
And so your nephew Brian, for whom you had initially made the plans to go out
Yep.
to celebrate, didn't end up coming.
Correct.
And why was that?
I don't think he was feeling up to it.
And if you know about what time was it that you picked your sister-in-law and your niece up and then went to work?
I don't remember exactly, but I would probably say between maybe 7:30 and 7:30, like around 7:30 maybe.
And you arrive at the waterfall, you go in. If you could just explain for the jury sort of when you walk into the door of the waterfall, where was it that the three of you went?
When you walk into the door, there's a couple long high top tables in front of you. And we just sat down at a high top table.
To it,
right when you walk through the door.
Yeah, it's a puzzle of lies.
Your
And
experience
as we
either
get
that
into
evening or
our
prior
testimony
evenings
going forward in the next few
on
weeks, it'll
certain nights does the
even
waterfall have any
worse,
kind of
right?
sort of entertainment?
Yeah, they always have. Every week's different. They have bands.
And from your recollection, was there a band there that night?
Yes, there was.
And do you recall where you were seated in relation to the band?
I was sitting at the end of the high top table closest to the door that you walk in, and the band was to the right of me against a wall and kind of like an alcove, like a little against the wall.
And when you went there, was the band already sort of set up and playing, or did that happen later?
I think they set up while we were there. I think.
And so initially when you go there, do you go there and just have drinks, or did you eat something, or what?
We ate, and yeah.
And while you were there, as far as during sort of the meal portion of it, was there anyone else that joined you?
I know my niece's boyfriend, Tristan Morris, came. I don't remember exactly when it was during that, but I know he was there. And then during the meal part, I don't think during the meal part anyone else, I don't think.
So you recall, as far as the meal part was concerned, it's you, your sister-in-law, Nicole, your niece, Caitlin, and her boyfriend, Tristan.
Correct.
And Mr. Morris, did he stay for any extended period of time, or when was it that he left?
I know he stayed for a little bit, but I honestly can't remember what time exactly he left.
For third or fourth, can't remember.
Now, your husband, was he working on that day?
Yes, he was.
And had you been in communication with him as to where you were going to be?
Yes.
I wrote it down
And
about
so the plan
Tristan,
was
so when we
basically for
get
him to
to
meet
him
you
and Caitlin's
at the waterfall
testimony,
when he was done
we'll
with
see
it.
if he
Correct,
remembers
yes.
how long he was there. I
And
don't recall.
if you know about what time was it that your husband, Christopher, came over to the waterfall?
Maybe not 9:30, 10. Maybe. I don't
And
remember
want you to
exactly.
guess, just
Yeah.
you know approximate time.
Yeah.
So at some time around 9:30 or so, your husband, Christopher, comes over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did he do when he got there?
I
Let me ask
came
you,
in. Yeah.
He came in, did he get anything to eat, anything to drink?
Yeah. He probably ordered a drink
This
and
is
just
so, like,
stood by the table.
Again, this is Lally trying to
think.
And
push too much information into
you
the
and the
brains
people
of
in
the
your group,
jury.
were you
A lot of this
drinking
is so
that night?
unnecessary.
Yes.
What is it? Do you recall specifically what you had to drink?
I think I had just a couple glasses of wine.
And your husband, do you recall specifically what he had that night?
What he would drink is Miller Lite.
And that's sort of typically what he would drink?
Yes.
I just wanted to stop that for a minute because remember, why does she say she leaves early? Why does she go home? She has a migraine, right? Well, I don't know about you guys, but I get cervical headaches. I've had one for 2 days. I never drink when I have cervical headaches. They're very similar to migraines. Alcohol is the worst thing you can do. Caffeine and alcohol, you want to stay away from. If you even have a tinge of an idea you're getting a migraine. Now, granted, they can come on quick, and I'm not saying she's lying here about, lying that she had this migraine come on, because they can come on quite quick, but usually there's signs and symptoms. Anybody who in the replay, if you guys chat with me in the replay, let me know if I'm on. I don't get migraines, but I get these cervical headaches. They're very similar. So I'm surprised if she was getting a feeling that she was about to get a migraine, because I do believe that's why she said she left early, right? And she's going to tell us here in a minute, but I wanted to remind you guys that I don't think she would have had any, and especially wine. I think wine is extra bad because of the tannins. So I don't know. Maybe she did not have a migraine. Maybe she was starting to freak out because she knew what was coming up. Not saying that they premeditated for him to die, but I think she knew very well what was going on with the disagreements with her husband and her brother-in-law, and what John possibly knew that they did not like that he knew, because that's kind of my take on all this, that there was something John knew and they were pissed at him and wanted to have a chat with him that night, and then it got out of hand. I don't believe it had anything to do with that little tryst that Albert had with Karen. I really don't. But again, that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm leaning towards John found something out that they didn't want him to know, or that they didn't want him to keep pressing, and they wanted to chat with him about that. So I'm thinking she might have got a migraine because she knew what was coming and it stressed her out. But we're about 5. Let me know if you want me to fast forward through any of this and get to the cross, because I don't know how much of this really matters to us anymore, but it is interesting to see her demeanor and to see how she behaves. The difference between Lally and Yannetti is definitely striking. So, all right, here we go. Back to it.
Yes.
And your sister-in-law, Nicole, do you recall what she was drinking?
I would assume White Claw, a White Claw.
That makes me
And,
laugh, because
same
I was in
question
Vermont
with
this
regard
summer
to
and
these.
White Claws were being sold everywhere.
Yes, probably White Claw as well.
Now, while you were there, who, if any, so after your husband came in, who, if anyone else, sort of came in and joined?
Absolutely, Julie, testifying angry. It's a
My
great way to
brother-in-law,
put it.
Brian Albert, and his friend, Brian Higgins.
Just having a couple claws. Oh,
And
gosh.
obviously, you know your
That was
brother-in-law, Brian
hysterical.
Albert, correct? And do you know?
Yes.
Thank you. You just have to answer obviously. So, did you know Mr. Higgins as well?
Yes.
And how did you know Mr. Higgins?
I just know him from being friends with my brother-in-law.
So you knew him just sort of through your brother-in-law, Brian, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And do you know when they arrived in relation to when your husband, Christopher, arrived?
I don't recall.
But some point after, correct?
Yes.
Then after they arrived, who, if anyone else, do you recall sort of arriving
anyone
and
else?
joining in your group?
Yes, Julie.
Jennifer McCabe.
Just know him.
And Matt McCabe. And there was a couple, I don't even know their name, colitis. They arrived.
Sounds like a disease.
I don't know their first
Julie.
names.
You might be better off just not
And
even to try.
John and
to
Karen
pronounce
arrived shortly after that.
And just so we can clear up people, as far as Jennifer McCabe, you've already mentioned her, and Matthew, was that her husband?
Yes.
And the other couple that you were talking about, or sort of guessing their names, had you ever met them before?
No. Nope.
Not anybody that you're particularly friends with or anything like that?
No. I know them, who they are, from
Allie, if she
seeing
never met him,
them
she's
maybe
not
at a sporting event or
particularly
something,
friends
but
with
I've
them.
never been introduced to them.
And when you say sort of sporting events in relation to what?
If they were at like a basketball game and I was at a game, like I've just seen them around. I'm assuming probably sporting events, probably a basketball game.
And I'm sure it's pretty well understood with this. I just want to clarify. So when you say sporting events, these are kids' sporting events?
Kids sporting events, yes.
And so which kids' sporting events would you be at that you would see this couple that you didn't know?
Let's fast
Your
forward
kids
a
or
little
something?
bit.
No,
This
Jennifer
is-
McCabe's kids.
Again, this is him just
So you
dragging
would
it
go to
out with
sporting
all these
events.
useless details. We're going to go forward a little bit. see what
From your observations, did you ever see him with like a winter coat or jacket or anything like that?
I did not.
Here, we'll go back a little bit. This could be interesting.
That you had?
I had a terrible migraine.
Ah, okay, we'll go back again.
Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed, came into the waterfall. Where were you in relation to sort of the high top table that you were describing?
I was at the
Who
top of the high top
cares,
table
Lally?
closest
This
to
is
the door.
stupid, right? Who the frick
And
cares
when
about
they
that?
came in, where did Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant go?
John walked in and said hello and kept on walking, I think, to the bar. And Karen came in and stopped at the table to talk for a minute.
And during the time that she stopped at the table to talk for a minute, what, if anything, did she do?
She opened her jacket and had a
Very good,
glass
Julie. I shall do that.
and pulled the glass out and started drinking the drink.
Lally is so
And
slow
as
to
far
turn. I
as
forgot
the
to speed
drink
it
in the
up.
glass, what, if anything, did you observe as far as color or anything like that?
Clear.
And the glass that she had, could you see, so clear liquid inside it, how much of the glass was full of that?
I don't recall.
And she placed it on the table, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was your
Thanks,
reaction?
Julie.
I
always
think I
forget
laughed
to
and
speed
said,
it up.
made a comment like, you're crazy or something. just
Julie,
because
move your
she
hair out
walked
of
in
your
with glass.
face. Are you so nervous that you don't even notice that? Put your hair away from your face. That bothered me
Do
the
you
whole
know
entire
where
testimony
Mr.
the first
O'Keefe
time
and
around.
had been coming from prior to them getting to the waterfall?
Yes.
And where were they coming from?
CF
A little
and
thing, but
Familiar
it,
with
I'm
that
like,
establishment?
wow,
Yes.
you are so
And where
nervous
is that
that
in
you
relation
can't
to
even move that. Use your hands. Get your hair out of your
It's
face.
maybe 200 steps right next to my husband's restaurant.
So on the same side of
Opposite side.
Washington Street?
Opposite side.
On the same side of Washington Street as your husband's restaurant?
Yes.
In the same vicinity from D&E to Waterfall, CF.
Yes. Yes.
Now, over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to see Mr. O'Keefe? He was at a bar, he had something to drink, is that correct?
Can you repeat that?
Over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to observe what, if anything, Mr. O'Keefe was drinking?
No, I don't believe. I left very shortly after they got there.
And so you left fairly shortly after they arrived?
Yes.
And if you know, about how much time are we talking?
Maybe 10, 15 minutes.
And why is it that you left?
I had a terrible migraine.
I don't buy it. You don't drink
from a
2
Van
glasses
Ness
of
Yes.
wine with a terrible
And when
migraine.
you left, where did you go?
No way.
And when you got home, as far as your children on that evening,
Mm-hmm.
who was home, who was out? Picking up?
My youngest son was home, and my oldest son didn't live at home. He lived in California at the time. And my middle son was not home.
And so your oldest son, Christopher, he was in the Navy at that
He was in the Navy, and he was stationed in San Diego. Yes.
And so your middle son, Colin, he was out. Did you know where he was?
Yes. He was at, I believe, his friend Michael Leonetti's house.
And at some point, did you learn that Colin had gone from that person's house to somewhere else?
Yes.
Is this him communicating with you?
Yes.
And that other place that he went to, do you know where that was?
Yes. My brother and sister-in-laws, Nicole and Brian Albert's house
Very
on
quick
Fairview
to
Road.
say yes, yes,
Was that in
yes.
relation to your nephew and his birthday?
Yes.
Now, while you were, if I can take it back to the waterfall just for a
Mm-hmm.
second. So while you were at the waterfall, obviously you see Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed come in. Do you recall what Mr. O'Keefe was wearing?
I know he had a hat on, he had jeans on, and he had something with a hood.
And from your observations, did
She
you ever
can
see him with,
remember
like, a
all
coat or jacket
that,
or anything like that?
all this time
I did
that's
not.
gone by. But
And
she
with
couldn't
regard to
remember
the
those
clothing that you
other
observed him wearing,
simple things that he
what, if
asked
anything, did you
her.
observe as far as the condition
For
of that clothing?
observation
And, I mean,
purposes,
was
right?
it torn? Was it disheveled? Anything like that?
No, nothing that I remember.
And with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, as far as his appearance, what, if anything, did you observe about him as far as injuries or anything?
Nothing.
Now, with reference to your group as far as at the waterfall, how would you describe sort of the overall demeanor or tone of the group and what was going on then?
Just normal. I thought it was just normal. Sitting listening to a band.
So at least during the time that you were there were no sort of arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
Nope. Nothing.
And specifically to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed,
Mhm.
while you were there, during the short time that you were there, when they were there, did you observe anything as far as any arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Now, at the time, so during that time between when they arrived, you mentioned that John went up to the bar, correct?
Yes.
And where did the defendant go?
She talked to me at the top of the table for a few minutes, and then I believe she made her way down the table to either Jennifer McCabe or the couple that was at the end of the table to speak with.
And was it during that period of time that you had enough of the migraine and went home?
Yes, I left very, very shortly after that.
Now, during the time that you were there and you were speaking with the defendant down sort of your end of the table, what, if anything, was discussed as far as sort of where to go, what to do after the what?
I do know that, I do remember, I'm sorry, that Karen had asked if we could go back to D&E, my husband's store, and make pizza, because that's something we frequently do if we're out at the end of the night if we're hungry.
And was that something that you had discussed with Ms. Reed either on that date or on prior day?
I believe we discussed just that we went there once, and we said next time she'll have to come with us.
Was that something that was discussed as a possibility or something that was going to happen that night?
I think right away, I just wasn't going to do that because I wasn't feeling well. And I think I might have said, talk to Chris, because I wasn't going to do it.
And is that something that she mentioned over the course of that evening once, more than once, or something?
Just once to me.
So when you get home, at some point, the rest of your family came home at some point in the evening, correct?
Yes,
And who came home first? Your husband, Christopher, or your son, Colin?
my husband.
Do you know about what time that was?
I want to say about after 12, maybe 12:10,
Nope.
around there.
No, it
Sometime
wasn't,
around
Jules.
Sometime around 12:10, yes.
And what, if anything, do you recall specifically about when your husband, Christopher, came home?
He came upstairs to my room. He was shivering because it was cold out. And he immediately went to the bathroom, got undressed, and got into bed.
And your son, Colin, you've been in communication with
Yes.
him over the evening?
Yes.
And about how long was it after your husband came home that your son called him?
10 to 15 minutes.
And were you essentially waiting up for him?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Is that sort of common practice?
Yes. I do not go to bed until my kids are home.
And is there another common practice as far as when your kids come home, where do they go when they first come in?
They immediately will always come in the door, maybe grab a water out of the fridge and come upstairs and give me a kiss goodnight and tell me that they're home.
Now, did
Here's
that happen
the
on this
good,
occasion?
Yes.
good kids,
And,
wonderful
so
kids.
Colin
They
came
go and
into your room
kiss their
at some
point? Yep, he came right
parents
upstairs.
when they
Yes.
get home.
And when Colin came into your room and came upstairs, did you have occasion to observe him as far as talk to him? Obviously?
Yes, we talked for a minute. He asked me if I was feeling better. And yeah, we talked for a moment.
And during that conversation that you had with Colin, similar to what I asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe on your son, Colin?
None.
Okay,
And
so
fair to say the next day, at some point, you
he asked her if she was feeling better. So she goes out to a bar with a migraine and drinks 2 wines because Colin if the migraine came on at the bar because of drinking wine, Colin wouldn't have known she wasn't feeling good, right? So again, those are small lies. We're picking it apart, I know, but if there's small lies, there's big lies, right? Usually that's how it goes. And for some reason, she did not want to stay there that night. And I think she left for other reasons, not because she had a migraine. That's just my opinion, of course.
you talked to and had interaction with your son?
Yes.
What, if any, injuries or anything did you observe?
None. None.
So I know this is sort of hard, so wait till Mr. Lally finishes his question before answering, okay? Thank you.
Right. Don't be so quick to answer,
Now, after
Julie.
some
We
call
know
came
why
home,
you're doing that, though.
And you
Gotta
mentioned
get
you
out
went to bed,
that
right?
answer
Yes.
as quick as possible.
And turning your attention to the next morning, the Saturday morning of the 29th, about what time was it that you woke up?
I woke up about 8-ish.
And
here we
with
go.
regard to your nephew, Brian Jr., whose birthday it was now on the 29th, what, if any, sort of tradition do you have with respect to him, his birthday?
Every year on his birthday, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I get him 6 donuts and I bring them to the house and I leave them there with a card
6?
before he gets up. So when he wakes up, they're there. I've been doing it for years.
And is that what your intention was on this morning as well?
Yes.
Is that what you did on that?
Yes.
Now, when you woke up, probably like most people, at some point did you look at your phone?
Yes.
And when you looked at the screen to your phone, what, if anything, did you see?
I had a missed call from my friend Jen McCabe.
And was there any sort of notation in regard to the missed call as to what time that missed call had come in?
But it was 5:55 maybe.
Or sometime earlier in the morning?
Early morning, yes.
And beyond the missed call, was there any other sort of stamp or notification on the phone as far as voicemail, text message?
Nope. I'm sorry. No, there was not.
And not from Ms. McKay, correct?
Correct.
And not from anybody else?
Correct.
And at any point in time on that morning over the phone, did you speak with Ms. McKay?
No, I did not.
That's,
And
I think
did you
she's
call her?
lying.
So you didn't call her back or anything like that?
I did not.
And so after you wake up, at some point you go to Dunkin' Donuts and get the 6 donuts?
Yes.
And where did you go with those?
I drove to 34 Fairview.
And when you arrived,
Okay, so your best friend, I don't know about you guys, but if one of my best friends has called me at 5:55 a.m., I'm going to call them back or text them immediately, not go get donuts 2 hours later and drive them over in a snowstorm. I'm going to want to know, because my good friends, my best friends, do not call me at that time of the morning unless there's a really good reason, right? So I remember writing that down the first time I watched the trial. I wasn't live streaming yet. I hadn't started. I had my Social Change Warriors, but I was doing pre-recordeds. I wasn't following cases, trials, living about them. So I wrote it down because I was going to Melanie Little, or I was in Emily Baker's, some of hers. But again, they were watching it like from a juror's perspective, and I'd already pretty much made up my mind back during the grand jury. So I remember writing this down so I could chat with my friend about it, who I also got to watch the trial. She was interested in it, started watching it with me. There's just no way. She said too that if I called her at 5:55 a.m. and she woke up at 8 o'clock or whatever time she says she woke up, the first thing that you're going to do if it's a very dear friend or family member is you're going to want to know why they called you at that time. Was it a butt dial, or is there some emergency? Is something wrong? So I totally, again, that is not making sense. And I think she's definitely lying.
At 34 Fairview, where did you park in relation to the house?
I pulled into the driveway.
And when you came up to the house and you were driving to the house at this point, what was the weather like?
It was coming down. The snow was coming down pretty good.
And with reference to the house, what, if anything, did you notice out of the ordinary with regard to the house or the street or anything else?
Jennifer McCabe's car was in the driveway.
And as far as any other vehicles on the street or anything like that, what was going on at that point?
I don't recall.
Nothing you can recall?
No.
Oh, what time was this that you got there?
8:30, 9 o'clock, 8:30, around that.
And when you get there, you pull in the driveway. What did you do?
I opened my car door. I got out to walk to the car in front of me to leave the donuts and card inside my nephew Brian's car. And Brian Albert came to the door. Brian Albert Sr. came to the door, and he told me to come, asked me to come in for a second. And I said that I didn't need to. And he said, I said, I'm just leaving this gift for Brian Jr. And he said, no, just come in for a second. So I went into the house.
And when you walk into 34 Fairview Road on that morning, who, if anyone else was there?
Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, and Matt McCabe.
Family meeting.
And where were they in relation to the house?
In the kitchen.
And what, if anything, did they tell you at that time?
When I first walked in, nothing. Everyone was just sitting there, and I was looking around, and everyone was visibly upset. And I asked, what's going on?
Hi, Paula.
And another maybe 30 seconds went by, and Jen said, something's happened to John. And I said, John, she said, John O'Keefe. And I said, is he okay?
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow it.
I said, is he okay? And she said, we don't know. And that was that.
Okay,
And
wait a minute. Hold the phone. So she's saying it's 8:30. First, then she said 9. Then she backed it out again. No, 8:30. How did they not get word yet that John had passed, right? Wouldn't they? I mean, we'll see this when we watch Jen McCabe, but I thought they would have already had word, because I could have swore that we've heard that, or that we saw that the first time around, that Jen says she knew and tells us what time. Do you remember? Yeah. I thought she said 8. I must have missed that. Yeah. She said 8:30. I just wrote it down that she got there at 8:30, and then she said 9, and then she said 8:30. So she backed it up after that. And I didn't have any reason to go in the house. So I told him, no, I wasn't coming in the house. And he says, oh yeah, you're coming in the house, Julie. It's a family meeting. But I don't know how they're having this meeting, because they know he died, right, guys? So there's no way that's true that Jen said to her, we don't know how he is, because I think they would have already gotten a call at that point from somebody from the hospital, whether it was the family, or they would have found, they knew. I don't believe they didn't know between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And here's something else I wrote down, guys, and I want to ask your opinion on this. So if you pull into a driveway, and as she said she did, right behind Albert Jr.'s car, now we know that many people have told us, Microdots and Aiden, and that have actually been to the house, and some of you have driven by, that it's much smaller than it looks on tape, on film. So when we see it in the news, or when we see it, when other people video the yard, it's deceiving, and it's much smaller. So she's pulling in her left view. How does she not notice the disruption, right? The disruption that would have had to have been in the yard. The women were running all around. They were in panic. You've got EMS, firefighters trampling over the yard. How do you not, you notice these things, right? It's snowing. There's a fresh snow on the ground, and it was disturbed big time by this emergency. So I wanted to know what you guys thought about that. Also, didn't she get a call? Yes, right. That one has been in, that one, it was in a lot of considerations, and a lot of people have talked about that there was the phone call from Jen. I think Yannetti brings it up. So I think we'll get to that, but thank you for reminding me, Julie. And she said Higgins was there. Right. So Higgins was already there, according to her, at between 8:30 and 9 a.m. So we're going to, I have this all written down, so we'll be able to circle back when we go over Jen and Higgins coming up here in the next few weeks. So yeah, okay, we'll keep going because we're getting close to where we switch to Yannetti, and we'll take like a 5-minute stretch break. I have to stretch my knee and go get my ice pack. I'm still dealing with quite an amount of swelling, but overall it's going great. And thank you to all of you that always ask me. I really appreciate it. It hasn't been the easiest thing I've ever gone through, that's for sure. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless your knee is really, really bad like mine was, because this knee surgery was absolutely no joke. So we'll take just a short 2 or 3 minute break to stretch, go get yourself something fresh to drink, or tea, coffee, wine, whatever. It's Friday night, and I'll get my ice pack, and then we'll go forward with Yannetti. We're almost done with good old Lally.
How long were you at your brother and sister-in-law's house? I mean?
Probably about half hour, 45 minutes, maybe.
And where did you go from there?
I went home to wake my husband up to let him know what had happened.
And at some point after you go home and wake up your husband, where did you and your husband
Nobody
We
go?
went back.
Chris.
I woke up my
This
husband.
isn't getting
told him what
called.
happened,
They're all at
and
the
we went
house
back to
having this family meeting about
So the
John
second time that
dying
you
in
had
the
gone
front
back to
yard,
Jersey,
and
how long
nobody's
was it?
called Chris.
I would say probably half hour, not long.
And then after that half hour or so, where'd you go after that?
Back home to my house.
Now, during either of those occasions when you were at 34 Fairview Road on the morning of the 29th, you had occasion to talk and observe Brian Albert Sr., correct?
Yes.
And similar to questions that I asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe and your son Colin, what, if any, injuries or anything out of place did you note with respect to Brian Albert Sr.?
Nothing that I saw.
And, same question with respect to Mr. Higgins, as far as you made observations and spoke at least in the same room as him on that morning?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries or anything else on Mr. Higgins?
Nothing.
When you woke up your husband that next morning, your other two sons, being Colin and Dylan, they were at home still?
Yes, they were at home still asleep.
And with regard to when you went to Fairview, came back with your husband, went back to Fairview, and then came back again, were they still asleep?
I don't remember.
You recall, well, let me put it this way. As far as your sons, did either of your sons come back with you to Fairview Road that day?
No, they did not.
And do you recall whether or not either Colin or Dylan was awake when you left the second time to go to Fairview?
I don't.
Does anybody know why he wants to know that? Why that's important? Why do we need to know?
What if I told you there's a way to tap into a little known billion-dollar market using an app that might already...
At some point,
Oh,
a few days after
no.
this,
What
did
is
you have
going
occasion to meet
on?
with,
What the
Officer Bruce
heck?
Lee safely?
Hang on, I got to pause.
Yes, I did. They
just a
came to my home.
second. What is happening, guys? Unbelievable. What is going on? This is crazy. Every time we have lived, these planes are crashing. I'm freaking out right now, Julie, craziest person on earth. Missing plane in Alaska found crash. Oh, yeah, Jesus. What? Unbelievable. I can't get over this. All 3 plane crashes have happened while I was live streaming. This is really creepy. What in the world? I didn't even know there was a missing plane. I've been trying to stay off the news and social media as much as I can on my days that I give myself permission to be off. I had a big conversations with Kara and Michelle this week, so I did spend a lot of my volunteer time working on the 2 Florida cases. So I was trying not to pay too much attention to too much news that I didn't need to know about. It's just there's so much depression. I like to watch the news, but sometimes I need a break. So I didn't even know. Can somebody, Julie, or anybody who's with us in the chat, when did this happen? When did this plane go missing? I am out of the loop since I got the puppy on Wednesday. I've been just working on the cases and the live streams and not trying to pay too much attention to any more news right now. It's all been so scary and horrible recently. Wow. Okay, I will go back to Julie. I'm just can't believe this. Unbelievable.
When you say they, how many of them?
There were 2.
And you spoke to them that day in reference to what you had observed at the waterfall, everything you just.
Yes, I did.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to go back just a second. I missed there were 2 what? I think she said police officers.
Observed Brian Albert Sr., correct?
Yes.
And similar to questions that I asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe and your son Colin, what, if any, injuries or anything out of place did you know with respect to Brian Albertine?
Nothing that I saw.
And, same question with respect to Mr.
Sorry,
Higgins,
guys,
as far
I gotta
as
go back
you made
to-
observations and spoke at least in the same room as him on that morning?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries or anything else on Mr. Higgins?
Nothing.
When you woke up your husband that next morning, your other two sons, being Colin and Dylan, they were at home still?
Yes, they were at home still asleep.
And with regard to when you went to Fairview, came back with your husband, went back to Fairview, and then came back again, were they still asleep?
I don't remember.
You recall, well, let me put it this way. As far as your sons, did either of your sons come back with you to Fairview Road that day?
No, they did not.
And do you recall whether or not either Colin or Dylan was awake when you left the second time to go to Fairview?
I don't.
At some point, a few days after this, did you have occasion to meet with a couple troopers from the state police?
Okay.
Yes, I did. They came to my home.
2
And you
troopers.
say they, how many of them?
There were 2.
And you spoke to them that day in reference to what you had observed at the waterfall.
Troopers
Everything
taking
Yes, I
house
did.
calls, guys.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
You're supposed to get called into the police department for these kind of interviews.
Just one last question. When you, when you came over to Fairview Road that first time with Dylan, as far as the inside of the house, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition of the home or anything about the home that seems abnormal or out of place or off, from the evening before when you were there?
Nothing.
I have nothing further to this, Commissioner.
Okay, Ms. Tinetti?
Thank you.
Same, Julie. Whenever I see
Good
the
afternoon,
court
Zoe.
reporter lady, I
Good
just,
afternoon.
first of all, she's amazing. Anybody that can do that job. My mom worked for the Department of Justice for her whole career. And before that, she worked for a court reporter. And it's just, wow, that is a level of skill that is mind-boggling to me. And then what's really mind-boggling to me is that they don't let the jury see the transcript. All of you that live in Massachusetts, you have to protest, you have to lobby your congressmen, your senators, whatever it takes. That has got to change. Lally's entire tactic, whether people want to believe it or not, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm an ex-cop and I'm a social worker, but was to muddle the jury, put so much crap in their brains about who sat where, basketball games, who listened to what music, who said what to who sat where, to muddle their brains from the actual what they needed to know, right? It's a tactic because he knows that I didn't know this. I watched the whole trial and I'm assuming the jury's going to get to listen back. How do you expect 12 people to go through, what was it, 8-9 weeks of testimonies and not be able to listen back and only be able, as fast as they have to write when they can take notes, right? But I don't understand that. That is so archaic. Why Massachusetts has not changed that. But there are so many laws on the books in so many states that are state related, that are so old and tired and need to be just taken off the books and redone. But yeah, exactly. It was his whole strategy, watered down all the testimony. Yeah. I mean, how in the world could they remember all that? And I don't know what it's going to take for Massachusetts. This case is so groundbreaking in so many ways and will be famous forever, probably, or at least for a long time, right? Like OJ is still famous. And that whole case was years and years ago. I was like in my 30s. So this case will probably be that way too. And I'm sure it'll be written up in law journals and there'll be books, there'll be movies, everything, right? Documentaries. Maybe that will push Massachusetts lawmakers to make a change because that's just not right. And I mean, somebody's life is on the line. What if you have arrested the wrong person, like in this case with Karen Reed? How many other people have been wrongfully convicted in Massachusetts because they don't get to see the transcripts? They don't get to look at what happened over the course of a long trial. It makes no sense to me. So, all right, guys, I'm going to run in the kitchen and get my ice pack. I'll be right back. And then we will jump right into Yannetti. So just give me just a moment. Thank you so much. You back that? Okay, I'm back, guys. I'm just going to put this ice pack on my very swollen knee. And if anybody is ever going to have knee surgery, you are welcome to either PM me on Facebook, DM me on Twitter, or email me. I am happy to tell you some tips and tricks that I certainly wish the surgeons and nurses would have told me that I've had to learn on the fly with this total knee replacement. My right knee is supposed to be done in April, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. I just can't go through this again. I'm going to have to try to just baby my right knee. I want to wait a year. My body, my hair fell out from the anesthesia. I've been losing hair like crazy, and just the whole, my neck injury stuff, the chronic fatigue that ensued after my surgery was bad. I didn't really expect that, but it was bad. And so then I got COVID, as most of you know, because I live streamed through, I literally got tested for COVID. The nurses came in. I had to let Amber talk while the nurse was in my room because I had 102 fever. So I literally caught COVID on a live stream. They may have to talk about that at my memorial service after I go to heaven someday, because that's pretty epic, I think. Anyway, if you're interested in seeing how badly you can look after knee surgery with COVID, go watch my episode from the nursing home. It's epically bad because I'm very sick, but yeah, that probably was not a very good decision on my part to live, but overall it went pretty well, actually. So, so there's that. So let's see, what do you have to say, Julie? Exactly. If she gets convicted, it's game over for the people of the Commonwealth and fair game for even worse corruption. Oh yeah, I'm nervous. Like, I'm already nervous. I wish that it was coming up sooner, because it makes me so nervous. Kat, what was worse? The knee surgery. I separated. I had to have surgery on my shoulder. I tore my bicep muscle and had to have surgery on the shoulder. And I thought that was really bad because the healing was very slow. And the first week or two, it was really painful. But I have to say, maybe because it was 3 years ago, I've forgotten, because I do know it was really painful. Rotator cuff surgery, that was no joke too. But this knee thing, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad if I hadn't gotten COVID. So I'll probably never know for sure. Because I mean, overall, the knee was bad, but I do remember the shoulder being I remember crying, and I did not cry with the knee. I cried because of the COVID, because I was so upset that I had gotten COVID. But I don't remember. I know that it might be a tie, but the shoulder is quicker. It wasn't. This knee thing is hard because the swelling has been so bad, and it's not painful anymore. It's just uncomfortable, and I'm still limping quite a bit. So, but it could be a tie like that first week, because the shoulder was very sore. So I feel for anybody who has to have shoulder surgery, rotator cuff, or the knee. It's brutal. I mean, aside for the COVID, I thought the live went, oh yeah, right, exactly. It was a pretty good live stream for being in a nursing home, rehabbing from knee surgery, and then finding out that you have COVID. Like I said, it's pretty epic. You can't make that stuff up, right? All right, let's go. I love you, Nettie. This is great stuff now coming forward with her. And I'll be back to do questions, and I'll stop, as we go. So here we go with I love this guy.
You and I have never met, correct?
Correct.
I just want to pick up on a question and an answer that Mr. Lally asked you and that you responded to. He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later, correct?
I don't know.
It was February 10th of 2022 that two state troopers came to speak with you and your husband, Chris, correct?
Correct.
And so we're talking about 13 days later, almost 2 weeks later, correct?
If that was the date, yes, correct.
Prior to February 10th, no investigator from this case bothered to talk to you or your husband, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the two investigators who did come, you knew one of them quite well, did you not?
I knew them. I wouldn't say quite well, but I knew them.
Okay, when you say you knew them.
Him. I'm sorry, him.
Okay, and who was it that you knew?
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor was the brother of one of your close friends, correct?
Correct.
You're close friends with Courtney.
Jermaine struggled for years with dental issues before finally finding
Commercial
Nuvia.
time.
Listen to what he wanted most after his smile makeover.
There we go. Skip. Oh, it's making me do this.
Proctor, correct?
I am.
And by the way, your maiden name is Daniels, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you have a sister, Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you would agree that Jill Daniels is also lifelong best friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Yes, she is.
And in terms of your relationship with Courtney Proctor, you socialize with her, do you not?
Objection.
Do you?
Occasionally, yes.
Go out for drinks with her, correct?
Yes.
You've attended parties with her, correct?
Yes.
You've also provided childcare for her children, correct?
Yes.
Objection. We'll strike.
All right, I'll see you inside sidebar on this, Mr. May.
Oh, sidebar. Now, what do you think caused that sidebar? I'm just curious. I'm always wondering what causes the sidebars. Like what is said. I mean, I understand when the lawyers basically ask for them, but I'll see you at sidebar, Mr. Ionetti. I want to rewind that a minute. I want to see.
He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later, correct?
I
It
don't
was
know.
February 10th of 2022 that two state troopers came to speak with you and your husband, Chris, correct?
Correct.
And so we're talking about 13 days later, almost 2 weeks later, correct?
If that was the date, yes, correct.
Prior to February 10th, no investigator from this case bothered to talk to you or your husband, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the two investigators who did come, you knew one of them quite well, did you not?
I knew them. I wouldn't say quite well, but I knew them.
Okay, when you say you knew them,
Him. I'm sorry, him.
okay. And who was it that you knew?
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor was the brother of one of your close friends, correct?
Correct.
You're close friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
I am.
And by the way, your maiden name is Daniels, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you have a sister, Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you would agree that Jill Daniels is also lifelong best friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Yes, she is.
And in terms of your relationship with Courtney Proctor, you socialize with her, do you not?
Objection.
Do you?
Occasionally, yes.
Go out for drinks with her, correct?
Yes.
You've attended parties with her, correct?
Yes.
You've also provided childcare for her children, correct?
Yes.
Objection. We'll strike.
All right, I'll see you inside sidebar on this, Mr. May.
Sorry, guys, my son's taking the puppy out for me, so I had to step away for a minute. So what did we conclude was the purpose? I'm going to pause this for a minute, then I'll fast forward it. What was the purpose of this sidebar, do you think? Julie says, oh, I see. I think they're going to talk about the gift issue, right? Exactly. I forgot about that. Oh, that's just crazy, isn't it? Unbelievable. It's just, there's so much in this case that you forget because it's just like Julie said earlier, it's just this giant puzzle of deception and lies and coordinated efforts. And most people on the anti side say it's too much, that can't be possible. That is not true. If you want to go back in the library of Social Change Warriors and check out when Ed Byers has been our guest, he is the retired law enforcement officer from Indiana who helped uncover the corruption there. And it was twisted and deep in corruption and high up the food chain. So antis, please believe me, this does not just happen in a silo. This is going on in all of our communities around the country. And it's not as hard as you would think, because once you start down a path of lies and then you have to keep going, and then one turns into two, and then another person has to be involved because that person before them was involved. And it's an ugly thing, corruption. It really, truly is. And we've been following Ellen Greenberg. I've been following the case since 2011. Personally, it struck me back then, and I've literally followed it all these years. So when I started live streaming in August, I started doing updates on Ellen Greenberg and standing for her and advocating for her. And now we've had all this news in the last week. So feel free to check out, if you don't know about Ellen Greenberg and the case in Philadelphia, feel free to check it out. It's in our library. And it's really it's disgusting, and it's a lot of corruption. And you could easily say, oh, there's no way they could do that, but they did do it. They did do it, because there's no way Ellen stabbed herself 20 times. Absolutely no way. So the corruption there is deep and high up the food chain as well. So you've got Massachusetts, Indiana, Pennsylvania, and those are just 3 of the states of that, and now Florida, with what I'm dealing with here, where they cannot find one missing girl who's been missing for 2 years in Marion County, and they have completely disregarded Hatchet Man bringing a hatchet into a bar, and then people holding Jason down because he had the audacity to defend himself against Hatchet Man, and yet no charges. The case is closed. Karavich is left as a mourning widow with no justice. So it is everywhere, people. Corruption and crime is everywhere. It's sickening. So, yeah, because Julia said she was going to buy Michael Proctor a gift. Yep. Thank you. That's why we have the sidebar. Okay, we'll fast forward here. And there's the parents. There's her brother. Oh, not too long of a sidebar, was it? There's Little Desk Man, as everybody was calling him on social media. They gave him that tiny little desk. That was weird.
One year?
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. And then when COVID happened and everything shut down, I wasn't helping her any longer. Okay. And then occasionally after, I would help just on an as-needed basis after COVID.
And during that year of 2019, how often did you watch her children?
2 days a week.
And she had a boy and a girl?
Correct.
What were their names?
2 days.
Jack and Caroline.
And Jack and Caroline were Trooper Proctor's niece and nephew, correct?
Yes.
The Proctor family entrusted you with the care of their children, correct?
Objection.
It's sustained as asked.
You know that Michael Proctor is a state trooper, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he also was from Canton?
Yes.
You knew his wife, Elizabeth Proctor?
Yes.
And you were also aware that Courtney Proctor had recommended you to also watch Michael Proctor and Elizabeth Proctor's children, correct?
Objection. Move to strike.
That objection sustained.
Why,
But
right?
you go back a long way with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were certainly at her wedding, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son was a ring bearer at that wedding.
I
Objection.
don't understand this.
So
Do you
we'll sustain
guys?
that through this
I
one.
remember this really ticked me off with Bev.
You've spent time at Michael Proctor's childhood home,
She
have
was
you not?
saying sustained before it
You've
even
been to the
got
pool
out
at
of
the
her
Proctor's
mouth,
house, correct?
his mouth.
Yes.
I didn't catch that whispering, did you guys? Yeah, they're trying to downplay their connection. Oh, he's just a guy I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Now we go to sidebar. Yeah, that was ridiculous, you guys. I mean, I remember being just incensed when this happened. Like, why is she? First of all, we know why he's objecting, but why? Why? Those are valid questions. There's no reason why that can't be asked. It's because, yeah, Bev the overrider for real. Because she's, yeah, Bev the overrider. Perfect. Okay, let's go for there's that. And again, allowing him to sit right across from Karen like that should never be allowed. That's intimidation right there. And that's just messed up. I've never seen that in any case that I followed or that I saw when I was an officer, that they would allow the victim's family to, especially him being so vocal and staring at her the way they did, the glaring. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yes.
Whoops, I missed the question. Sorry, guys. And we'll just let it write out. It's not that long. We've got about, I think, maybe 10 more minutes of her testimony for this day.
How many times have you been to the Proctor's
The
pool?
most.
Say maybe a dozen.
And you've certainly taken your children there as well?
Yes.
Colin has been to the Proctor's pool?
Yes.
And you've seen Michael Proctor's mother and father at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You've seen Courtney Proctor and her husband at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You are very close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
How would you define very?
Well, I guess I'd ask you to define very close. Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, go ahead. Next question. You got your answer.
I didn't hear the answer.
Go ahead. Repeat
Not
that.
get his
Do you
answer.
deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Okay. You talk regularly, correct?
Yes.
You text each other, correct?
Yes.
You also talk by phone.
Very rarely.
Is it fair to? Did you say very rarely you talk to
Phone.
Courtney Proctor by phone?
Usually it's text.
But do you stand by that testimony that you talked to Courtney Proctor very rarely by phone?
Do we have a time frame? Do you mean now or do you mean then?
Let me ask you this. Between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th.
I don't know if you noticed, but her eyes are
you only
blinking
speak
a
rarely
lot
with
more
Courtney
right
Proctor?
now. That's nervous.
I don't recall.
No, there we go. I don't recall.
Were you using Courtney Proctor as an intermediary to communicate with Michael Proctor about this case?
Objection.
No, I was not.
Are you aware that between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, you and Courtney Proctor spoke by phone 67 times?
Objection.
We mostly
aware of that?
text.
No, I don't know the exact count.
Do you deny that you spoke 67 times?
I don't deny it, but I don't recall the exact amount of times.
Okay, so you don't deny that you spoke 67 times. You still want to maintain your testimony that you only talked very rarely with Courtney Proctor during that time period.
I just don't remember the exact amount of times.
Well, you know that my client, Karen Reed, was arrested in connection with this case on February 1st of 2022. Do you not?
I do.
You spoke
Way
to
more
Courtney
blinking
Proctor
than she
that
was
date
doing with Lally,
for
guys.
12
I just
minutes
wanted
by
you to
phone,
know that. That is
correct?
a sign of anxiety.
I don't recall
stress.
exactly. I don't remember exactly.
We blink a lot when we're under stress.
May I approach?
If we were to go back and
Before I approach,
show Lally,
your
you
memory's
will
exhausted
notice
as
that her
to
blinking
whether
is
you
more
spoke to Courtney
normal.
Proctor that
Like,
day, and if
people
so,
blink
how
a
long
lot,
the two of you
but
spoke?
this is excessive, and you can totally tell the difference.
Hey husbands,
Oh, here we go.
Valentine's Day is
Another
coming, and if you found the love of your life, get her this.
skip. There we go.
I'm showing you a document with a number of.
Just show it to us.
Right. No, I just want to point out which one that I'm pointing out. So the third, I was going to say a number of lines. The third line down, if you would take a look at that specific date and time and see if that refreshes your memory about whether and how long you spoke to Courtney Proctor on February 1st, 2022.
Can you see that or do you need glasses?
No, I can see it.
I do have a pair of readers that I need as well if you need to borrow them.
Yes, if I could.
Of course.
Thank you. I
And,
left mine downstairs.
I just got these and it's like. the
Misty and
middle-
Eddie, just bring them up,
Sorry.
please.
It took me a while to figure them out. But
Thank you. I
anyway.
appreciate it.
She gets so impatient with him. He's trying to be, somewhat decent.
It's the third line.
Third
down.
line down. Yes, I see it. I don't recall this.
I hate
It's a long
to
time
say
ago.
it,
Thank you.
but Bev is
Say that
such a
having
bitch.
seen this record, it does not refresh your memory that you spoke to Courtney Proctor for.
Don't, it does not refresh your memory. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Did Courtney
Absolutely,
Proctor tell you
Julie.
the day of my client's arrest on February 1st that she had been discussing the case with her brother that day?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you speak to Courtney Proctor that day in any fashion?
What day exactly?
The day of my client's arrest on February 1st, 2022.
That was on the sheet you just gave me?
It was.
Well, I did, obviously, if it was on that sheet.
And when you talked to her,
Snarky,
did she tell
snarky.
you that she had discussed the case with her brother?
Objection.
Were you notified that Karen was going to be arrested?
Objection.
Sustained.
What did you discuss?
I don't recall.
The next day, February 2nd of 2022, was the day that my client was arraigned back in Stoughton District Court. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor 3 times that day before my client's publicly televised arraignment at 9 a.m. Did you not?
Again, I don't remember.
After the arraignment, you spoke to her again for 27 minutes, beginning at 10:58 a.m. Did you not?
I don't recall.
Okay. So your testimony is, well, we should strike that. My client's arrest was pretty big news in Massachusetts, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were aware that my client had been
I
arrested,
love how
correct?
quick job Beth.
Yes,
we have to invite a lawyer to join us on Friday Night Lives once in a while because I just want to understand. I want to understand better. Bev doesn't even hesitate. Like I said, she is saying sustained before he even has the objection out of his mouth. And I would love to have one of the lawyers, or a lawyer that maybe one of us knows that could help us understand how, what is the reasoning why some of these would seem like obvious questions that why can't we know these, right? But I think that maybe some of them could be hearsay, right? Or, coming from a second person, second hand, but it still would be great. I'll see if I can find somebody to join us next Friday that is a lawyer that could help us understand better why we have to deal with all these sustain. It's just unbelievable.
I had seen it on the news.
You were aware that she was being arraigned the very next day, were you not?
Yes.
This case involved your family, did it not?
How do you mean it?
Well, you knew that John O'Keefe was found dead on your brother-in-law, Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
So necessarily, your family was involved in this case, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
And you knew that ultimately you'd probably be talked to by investigators from this case, correct?
I assume so, yes.
Right. Didn't happen for 13 days, but ultimately they did come, correct?
Yes.
All right. So this case had to have been pretty big news within the Albert family, was it not?
Yes. Yes.
You were discussing it with your husband, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your other relatives, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your friends, correct?
I don't know about my friends, but
okay.
Yeah.
So is it your testimony that with all of this going on, you confined your discussions about this case just to your specific family members?
not necessarily.
No, I mean, clearly, you would have talked to Courtney Proctor about this, correct?
Objection.
So folks, why don't we end here, right? Ms. Alpert, you'll have to be back tomorrow for your classes.
Yeah,
And
she's
there
had
is,
enough.
3 cautions.
Trev is like, I'm out of here.
With anyone, don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you
Love
happen to
that.
see here.
Somewhat, yes, absolutely.
I'll see counsel at our other jurors. So thank you very much.
Jurors are closing your notebooks and leaving.
All right, we made it. Day 8 is over. We got through Chris Albert and now Julie Albert. And now let me go to the next. Go ahead and take a stretch break. Those of you who are still with us live, replay, we're going to take a short stretch break. I'm going to pull up day 9. I'm going to take a look at how long it is because maybe we'll finish Julie Albert next week. And I've been trying to go in order. I don't.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside and get the bearskin tactical hoodie for.
No. Pause. Okay, so that one we're done with. Get rid of it. I'll look it up quick once I start the rest. We'll see. I'm going to see how long this goes because maybe we'll finish Julie next Friday and then we'll start our new person. And I can't remember who goes next, so I'll look it up quick. So hang on. I should have already checked that out, who was going to be our next person. But we'll see if there's not a whole lot left of Julie and you guys are up for it. We can finish her. I try to stay within 2 hours for Friday Night Lives, but we've never done that. Every one of our Friday Night Lives has gone 3 hours long. So, but tonight I definitely want to try to stick to the 2 hours for this episode. So let me go and pull it up. I have to go to my deck here. So please feel free to stretch, go refresh your alcohol or non-alcoholic Friday night cocktail or non-alcoholic soda or tea or whatever you're drinking. I will go find day 9. Okay, I've got it. There it is. So let me pull it up. So go present. I'm going to share my screen with y'all and let's pull it up and see what we've got here. I don't recall how much longer Yannetti is with Miss Julie, but I'm going to tell you right now. Go back and make sure you can see it. Yep, you can. Okay. Let's put it on full screen and let's see how long this goes. So we are on day 9. There's our fan. And here comes the judge. There she is with her black sweater on today. Still got that hair hanging in her face. She must like that. Oh, we're going to see some footage. And how long are we up with you? There's the fan and we're going to know who goes next. That's right. Of course, I can tell you who goes next because we are. Oh, that's what happens next. Turtle Boy exclusion issue. Aha. So it must be Brian. It must be Nicole maybe, right? Because, this will be interesting. So we definitely will. That'll be next week then. So yeah, we don't have too long. We'll finish Julie tonight because we are going to get to Nicole Albert and that's going to be good. Let's see how long do we go with her. She starts at approximately 2:17 and she goes through, looks like 3:17. How long? Nicole's up there for quite a while, almost 2 hours of testimony with Nicole. Let me see. And then of course, I believe, yeah, wow. Yep. Brian's next. Okay. So I think we can, if we go on speed, let's plan on starting Nicole. Let's plan on Nicole and starting Brian Albert next week. That ought to be a good Friday Night Lies, right? And it is actually, whoa, I think it's my birthday. I'll have to determine. I'm going to be here in Florida. I'm not going home for my birthday. So that may be a great way to end my birthday. I'm going to go out for lunch on my birthday. I don't really want to go out at night. I think we'll go through with it. We'll have Friday Night Lies on my birthday on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. All right. That's what we'll do. So let's finish up Miss Julie. Let's see. Kat, speaking of beverages, have you ever tried Ziva? No, it's a natural soda with stevia. Oh, okay. It's pretty good taste. So the only problem I have with a lot of those is I have become extremely sensitive to natural flavors. So if any of you have any kind of stomach issues, you might want to pay attention to how much of your food has natural flavors in. I've literally had to go to a diet free of natural flavors. And the only time I allow it is once a week when I do that nasty Diet Coke. But there's not obviously a lot of natural flavors. And as long as I only have a little one, I'm okay. But there's foods that have natural flavors in that I can't eat anymore. And they're not natural. Let me put it that way. Do your research. I may do a live about it on a Wednesday night on the Angry Bitch Club, because it really ticks me off how the poor quality of our food. And I might just do a short live on it, because it took me a lot of trial and error and not feeling well a lot to figure out. I had to do a total elimination diet to figure out that I cannot have artificial flavors and natural flavors anymore. So everything, there's a lot of granola bars I can't eat anymore that I used to like, all kinds of like candy when you feel like having candy. I mean, if you look at labels the next time you shop, you are going to see there's natural flavors in ketchup. There's natural flavors in mustard, and in some of the mustards, and some of the mayonnaise. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I did this elimination, and then I slowly added things in that had natural flavors, and I got sick again. So I think there's a lot more going on with that than people realize. And it's unbelievable. So if there's natural flavors in it, I can't have it, even though it doesn't have aspartame? Yeah. But thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I always appreciate, because I don't drink a lot of alcohol. I'll have wine once in a while if I'm out and about, pina colada, if I'm at the tiki bar, if my family comes down to visit. I like a little schnapps in my hot chocolate during football season, but I don't drink that much. It doesn't like me. So I mostly drink iced tea. And so, but thank you for that. I appreciate it. So this is exciting. So how perfect is that? We will do Nicole and Brian Albert on my Valentine's Day birthday. I will be turning 62, which is crazy to me. I still feel like I'm 40 in my brain most days. So the happily married couple, Brian and Nicole, how fun will that be? I'll have to come up with a good thumbnail for that one. And so, I think we'll start at 9 though, because I might go out to dinner for my birthday. Not sure. I'm probably going to do lunch, but we'll do 9 next week for Friday Night Lies on Valentine's Day. That will be really cool. All right, let's jump into the ending here of Miss Julie. And Julie says that's terrible. And so, yeah, it is unbelievable. So much of our packaged food has nothing but crap in it, basically. If anything has more than 4 max ingredients, it's probably not good for you. That's what I've had to learn through working with the dietitian and my own trial and error, to be totally honest with you. And most of you probably already know that. So, okay, let's go back and let's finish off with Julie. There's our fan. Not our Julie, craziest person on earth, but Julie Albert, who we're pretty confident. I wrote down, she told 3 lies. If you guys have more, let me know. Definitely evasive, way evasive. So I'll put up the poll tomorrow on Twitter X for one for Chris and one for Julie. And if you watched with us for Chris Albert 2 weeks ago, and if you watched tonight for Julie, please take our poll on Twitter X. I'd appreciate it, because it's just kind of interesting to see what people have to say. So they must be at a sidebar already this morning. Let me fast forward our fan. Sorry, fan. Don't like to cut your time short, but we will. Oh, there's the crotch of Paul. Lovely. Gotta love that shot. That was the shot so much, right? Like, again, he should have never been sitting there in the first place. Okay, here we go. There's Tiny Table Man. I forgot his name. Sorry, sir. Your job is very important and you are definitely necessary. But I mean, look at how close he is to her. That is just not acceptable. Oh, Massachusetts, you just make me so mad. There we go.
God save the Commonwealth and this good court. Thank you. May be seated. Morning, Your Honor.
Morning. All right, time to switch to the Kansas City Chiefs hat. Sorry, Packers. I love you the
Good
best.
morning again, counsel. Good morning again,
Kansas City
Ms.
Chiefs
Reed.
hat now.
Good morning, jurors. Happy Friday. I appreciate you all being here,
Oh,
ready,
you're so
willing, and able to
sickeningly
start.
sweet,
We
Bev.
got an awfully lot done in about 5 or 7 minutes over here at Sidebar. So we made you wait, but in the long run, it's to speed things up and to make things go more smoothly. So
Isn't
we
that
appreciate
great
your
of you,
patience.
Bev?
Those same 3 questions, have you all been able to follow the instruction and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday?
Yes.
Everyone said yes. So now
Yep, go
affirmatively.
Pack, go next year.
Are you all
I'm
able to
Chiefs all the
follow
way
the
now,
instruction
but
and
I
refrain from
do
doing
like
any
the Eagles, so I
independent
will not be
research or
sad. I will
investigation?
not, Eagle stand. You
Yes.
deserve
Everyone
it.
said
You can
yes,
have
so
it if you get it.
affirmatively.
Whoever
Did
wins, it'll be
anyone
fine, but I
happen to
will cheer
see,
for the
hear,
Chiefs
or read
for the
anything
majority
about
of the
this
game.
case since we left yesterday?
No.
One thing I did want to say to you folks is, if you can't hear a witness
If you
or a
can't, I
lawyer,
love the way she
or you
loves to
can't
use that.
see
You
something,
can't.
I don't know that unless you raise
I
your hand.
actually said
So
can't
if you
last night
raise
in
your
my
hand,
live
the court
stream on
officers don't
purpose
have
to
the
see if
power to
anybody
say
would
the
catch it, but
witness.
I don't think anybody
Please
did.
answer that again and speak louder.
You
But I
can't.
do. So if you raise your hand, court officer will come over and let me know, and we can make sure that happens. All right, so I remind counsel to keep their voices up, and you've been doing a great job of moving out of the way of the jurors toward the end there, so please continue to do so. All right, is Ms. Albert here?
Thanks to James for giving me the seal of approval for our Fockery disclaimer at the bottom. He gave me my seal of approval last week when he was on live with us on Wednesday, James Jackson. So I love having that up during Friday Night Lives.
Thank you.
All right, here she comes wearing her black sweater today. She still has to have her hair in a face, apparently.
Nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, you need this.
Boston, yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to remind you, keep your voice up, please, Ms. Albert,
will.
okay? All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go get her, Yannetti. Let's see how many
morning, Ms.
times she
Albert.
blinks.
Good
today.
morning.
Ma'am, you will recall yesterday, I broached the topic with you of how often you and Courtney Proctor speak to each other over the phone. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes.
And when I asked you to describe the frequency of those phone calls, I didn't put any words in your mouth, did I? I didn't suggest how frequently they were. You came up with the word.
I don't really.
Well, let me put it this way. When I asked you how often you talked to Courtney Proctor, you could have chosen any word in the English language to answer that question, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
What was the word that you chose?
Not often. I don't remember,
How about
honestly.
rarely?
Rarely.
Yep.
Yes.
That was your word, correct?
It could have been. I don't really recall. I don't recall.
You don't recall
Yes, you do.
telling this jury yesterday that when I asked you about how often you spoke to Courtney Proctor by phone, you said, well, rarely.
I don't remember.
What is your definition of rarely?
Not daily. Not daily, not.
Rarely
Yes.
is like once a
Once in
month.
blue moon?
Come on, Julie.
No.
Please. Right, guys? Rarely would be
rarely
once a
doesn't
month.
Mean to you
Yeah.
67 phone conversations within a 7-month period, does it?
A 67 time period in how many? 8 months?
So now she's going to do the
About
math.
7 months,
This is
67
classic.
times.
It's not a lot. I wouldn't think it's a lot in 7 months.
3 times in one day? Is that rarely?
No, but that wasn't every day. I would.
But remember, they talk
Okay,
in
well,
person. She babysits their
When you
kids 2 days a
left the
week.
stand yesterday, did you log into your account or check any gold bills to confirm those 67 calls?
No, I did not.
Did you speak to Mr. Lally about those 67 calls after we broke yesterday and before you took the stand today?
I don't believe so. No.
Did you call?
But you're the
Courtney
good
Proctor
Julie,
in one
Julie.
of those rare occasions? Yesterday?
No, I did not.
This morning?
No, I did not.
Were you curious as to whether or not you had actually called her those 67 times?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. In any case, regarding
he's like, all right.
of those 67 phone calls from February 1st until September 6th, do you maintain that during none of those calls or any portion of those calls did you and Courtney Proctor discuss the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
I do not remember.
Do you deny discussing that investigation?
I don't deny, but I do not remember.
Yes, you do.
All right. Well,
Come on.
you admitted yesterday after having
The
seen
man
the
is
records
dead.
that you
Yes,
spoke
you
with
remember
Michael
everything.
Proctor's sister for 12 minutes on February 1st of 2022. Do you recall that?
I don't recall the conversation. No, I don't. It was a long time ago.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Finish your answer.
I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. I just don't remember.
Okay. But my question is, after seeing the records, you saw the phone call for over 12 minutes, correct?
Correct.
The truth is, behind closed doors, the P word became my secret sin at age 10. And for the next 17 years of my life, what I did in the
And you also remember that that was the very day that the police arrested Karen Reed for this case, correct?
Correct.
The arrest of Karen Reed on February 1st was pretty big news in Massachusetts, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had seen that arrest all over the news, correct?
Correct.
There you go.
So you certainly, given the day and the fact that it was February 1st and my client was arrested that day, and you're talking to the lead investigator's sister, the subject of Karen Reed's arrest had to have come up, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
You certainly mentioned my client's arrest with Courtney Proctor on the very day that she was arrested and you were talking to Courtney, correct?
Correct.
Now, when we broke for the day yesterday, I had also asked you about the 3 phone calls that you had with Michael Proctor's sister on the morning of February 2nd when my client was arraigned, correct?
Correct.
And you recall that her arraignment was televised publicly, correct?
Objection.
Pay attention now.
Sustained.
She's not blinking as
You
much.
saw
This isn't
her
stressing
on
her.
the
But
news being
before,
arraigned,
when I
correct?
told you how much she was
Correct.
blinking over all of that testimony,
And
you can tell the difference.
one of those
With
phone
her,
calls
it's very obvious.
after, well, strike that. With regard to the 3 phone calls before the arraignment, you knew at that time that my client had been arrested the day before, correct?
Correct.
And you knew she would be arraigned in court that morning, correct?
Correct.
Certainly, when you were talking to Michael Proctor's sister on February 2nd, before her 9 o'clock arraignment, you were discussing the 9 o'clock arraignment, correct?
Can you repeat the end of that, please?
Sure. On February 2nd, the day that my client was scheduled to be arraigned in Stoughton District Court, we're talking about the 3 phone calls that you made to Michael Proctor's sister before that arraignment that very day. And my question is, certainly you were discussing the fact that she was about to be arraigned, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently, Mr.
Did the subject of Karen Reed's arraignment come up in any of those 3 calls on February 2nd, the day she was going to be arraigned, before her arraignment?
I don't remember exactly.
What about the 27-minute phone call that you had with Courtney Proctor at 10:58 a.m. that same day after my client was arraigned in court? Did you discuss the arraignment that had just happened?
I do not remember.
Boy, that's up to, I think we're up to 9. I've been ticking them off on my sheet here. It
No
makes me
longer babysitting for Courtney Proctor's
think
kids.
I have 9 so far, but I
I
might.
wasn't babysitting regularly like I was before.
So is it your testimony that you happened to be talking about babysitting on February 2nd for 27 minutes, the same day that my client was arraigned in Stoughton District Court?
I don't remember what I was talking about It could have been about the kids. It could have been about.
Come on,
It could have been about
admit
anything.
it.
I don't
Like,
remember.
Why are you
Sure.
going to lie
And,
about
and
that?
certainly it
So
could have been
obvious that
about
you
the
would talk
publicly
about that.
televised arraignment
Right?
that had just occurred, correct?
Objection.
So I'll allow this and then let's move away from this, okay? Can you answer that?
Yes, it could have been. Yes.
No
Did
badgering
you
the
tell
witness,
Courtney
Mr.
Proctor
Leonetti.
during any of these 67 phone calls that you were a witness in her brother's case?
I don't remember.
Okay. Ms. Albert, you
No,
were at
now we're
the
up to 10.
waterfall on the night of January 28th, correct?
Yes.
And you also went to 34 Fairview on the morning of January 29th.
Yes.
Yet, as of the date of these phone calls that we've discussed so far, the February 1st and the February 2nd, multiple phone calls, Trooper Proctor still had not interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
You were finally interviewed by Trooper Proctor on February 10th, about 13 days after John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
And you told Courtney Proctor that you were nervous to speak to her brother, Trooper Proctor, about this case. Do you remember that?
I do not remember those exact words. No.
All right. But you were nervous to speak to him, correct?
Of course, I was nervous in general for a police interview. I mean, I don't know someone who wouldn't be.
Were you worried that one of Trooper
About the
Proctor's
truest thing
colleagues
she
might
said
ask
so
to
far.
speak to your son, Colin, about what had happened on the 28th and the 29th?
Objection.
Was I nervous they would ask my son?
Yeah, were you nervous that one of the investigators in this case might approach your son to ask him about his whereabouts?
No.
Yes,
All right.
you were.
In any case, you were interviewed at 5:30 p.m. on February 10th, correct?
Correct.
Where did that interview take place?
At my home in Canton.
Who was present for that interview?
Me, my husband, Trooper Proctor, and Trooper Bukaki.
There it is. I remember when
Michael Proctor agreed to interview.
I remember when Aiden had his show, the next show following this, you know, everybody went crazy on this. I mean, we mispronounce words all the time, right? I mean, everybody does, right? But I do believe that she's never been able to pronounce his name right, correct? Because wasn't there another before this? Wasn't there another time when she pronounced it wrong, and that's how the whole bukkake thing got started, right? I don't remember because there's just so much in my brain about this case. If any of you remembers, like this wasn't the first time she mispronounced it, was it? I could have swore they were already calling him that, but maybe not. If anyone remembers, just let me know. If you're on replay, please let me know. I can try to go find it, but we all mispronounce names, but it is, you know, everybody really hammered her for that. She got that one bad. So, all right, going back now. Whoops. Uh-oh, sorry, I got the wrong thing. Pulled the wrong thing up. There we go.
You and your husband together, correct?
Objection.
Oh, this was the first time. Okay, thanks, Julie.
You and your husband were interviewed together, correct?
Correct.
Did either of these troopers, including Michael Proctor, suggest that maybe the two of you should be separately interviewed?
Yes.
I don't recall. I don't remember.
What did take place within your home?
In my family room?
Were you sitting on couches?
Yes.
You're comfortable?
Yes.
You were not in a police interrogation room, correct?
No, I was not.
And it wasn't particularly lengthy, correct?
What do you define lengthily? I don't recall. I don't remember how long it was exactly.
It didn't go into the evening, correct?
No.
And then Michael Proctor and the other trooper left, correct?
Correct.
Then at 6:17 p.m. that same night, shortly after you had been interviewed, you called Michael Proctor's personal cell phone number, correct?
I don't remember.
Let me have a moment.
Okay.
You didn't bring your cheaters today. Oh, you did? Good. Okay. May I approach Sharon?
Yes.
I thought he remembered.
This is the same document. I'm going to hand you one document. There's an orange sticky on it and you can ignore.
Okay.
But right above the orange sticky, there's a date of February 10th. That's what I'm directing your attention to. You could look at those 2 phone calls, ma'am, and look up at me when you're done. If I may approach.
Yes.
Did that refresh your memory about those 2 phone calls on February 10th?
I mean, I just read them, but I don't remember.
Okay.
There's
You
another one. I don't remember.
called Trooper Proctor at 6:17 p.m. and it appears to be a 5-second phone call. Did you see that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you recall that Trooper Proctor called you back that same day at 6:21 p.m. and that you spoke for about 4 minutes?
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you deny speaking to Trooper Proctor for 4 minutes when he called you from his personal cell phone on February 10th of 2022 after you had been interviewed that day?
No, I don't deny it, but I don't remember it.
Oh, there's another one. We're up to
When did you get
13
his
now.
personal cell phone number?
Don't remember.
Oh, 14.
Years ago?
I'm sure, yes.
Because you've known that family for a long time.
Yes, I have.
And as you testify here today, you can't remember what that phone call would have been about, correct?
No, I do not remember.
Okay. I'd like to contrast
He's
your
on a roll
relationship
now.
with Karen Reed
Which
versus
you do
your
not remember.
relationships with Jennifer McCabe and Courtney Proctor. You would agree with me, and I think you testified yesterday, that Jennifer McCabe is one of your best friends.
Correct.
And you call her Jen, correct?
Yes.
And Courtney Proctor is also one of your best friends, correct?
She's not one of my best friends, no. She's a good friend. She's not one of my best friends, no. She's my sister's best friend.
Gotcha. Okay. So your sister,
My sister Jillian, yes.
Jillian is best friends with Courtney Proctor, and you're close friends with her, but not best friends.
Correct.
But you really only knew Karen Reed as John O'Keefe's girlfriend, correct?
Correct.
She was just an acquaintance of yours.
Yes.
There are no photos of you in a hot tub together, right? You and Karen Reed?
No.
There are no photos of you with your arms around each other at the beach,
I
correct?
love this.
No.
This is-
You've never
this
been
is
to a
stark,
baby shower
stark
with
to
Karen
Katie.
Reed, correct?
We just
Objection.
talked about 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I think.
You didn't
Yeah.
have any contact with Karen Reed while you were growing up, correct?
No.
Karen Reed was definitely not from Canton, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow this and then you can move it on.
No, she was not.
No, one more question. She was an outsider, correct, to Canton?
She didn't live in Canton.
But after she started dating John, you would see her driving in and out of the street, correct?
Yes.
You'd see her taking groceries in, correct?
Yes.
Because you were neighbors with John.
Yes.
And it was the fact that you'd see her around, taking groceries in and out of the house and being outside with the kids that led you to believe that she was not only connected to John, but also to his house on Meadows Ave, correct?
Yes.
And you would see her interacting with the kids outside, correct?
Yes.
She would be participating in family type activities with the kids outside.
Yes.
And you'd see her enough that you assumed that she was living there, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you stated that you had known her or seen her for maybe about 1.5 years or so. Is that a good estimate?
Yes.
And in all the time that you saw her in the neighborhood or had any contact with her and John, you never saw the two of them fight or argue, correct?
No.
You never heard them fight or argue, correct?
No.
And you had been out with them in a group setting a handful of times, correct?
Just a couple of times.
And during those times, they always appeared to get along, correct?
Yes.
And you knew of no problems in their relationship, correct?
No.
And you were particularly impressed with the time Karen spent with John's adopted children.
Objection.
Were you?
Can you repeat that once more, please?
You were impressed with the amount of time that Karen spent with John's children.
I didn't know the exact really amount of time that, I mean, she was there a lot. Yes. She was, so yes, I would assume that she spent a lot of time with them. Yes.
Now, on Friday, January 28th, you had plans with your sister-in-law, Nicole, correct?
Yes.
You are close with Nicole.
Yes, I am.
You picked her up at her home in your car.
Yes.
You drove her to the waterfall, correct?
Correct.
And the two of you went for dinner there.
Yes.
Your husband, Chris, came later.
Yes.
Brian Higgins came later.
Yes.
And you knew Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It really stands out when you speed it up to 1.75 how quickly she says yes. I remembered from watching this the other day that it's like yes.
Thank you, Ron. I believe you testified you knew Brian Higgins at that time, correct?
Yes.
And how did you know him?
He is a friend of my brother-in-law.
And your brother-in-law would be Brian Albert, correct?
Yes.
And by the way, when I just asked you that question about how you knew Brian Higgins and what his relationship was to Brian Albert, you didn't hesitate to say that they were friends, correct?
Correct.
It was very clear that they were friends, correct?
Correct.
In fact, the two of them arrived at the bar together, correct?
Yes.
And it didn't surprise you to see the two of them together, correct?
No.
Karen and John came sometime after that?
I believe shortly after that, yes.
And they walked over to your table?
Yes.
And then John kind of came up from behind you and sort of in a joking way dug his finger into your shoulder?
Correct, yes.
And essentially said, you know, what's up? And that was about it. And he went on, correct?
He said, what's up? And made a joke. And
the joke was, given the fact that you and your husband moved from the neighborhood, they decided to hold a block party.
Yes.
And John was the same jokester he always was, correct?
Correct, yes.
And you had some contact with Karen while you were at the bar before you had to leave because of the migraine, correct?
Correct.
And she was just very bubbly that night, correct?
Correct.
That's just her personality as far as you could see, correct?
As far as I knew, yes.
You didn't know her that well, but that's how she always was, correct?
Correct.
And you left the waterfall at around 11 o'clock, your best memory?
A little after 11.
And it was a particularly bad migraine that night?
Yes.
And the loud music didn't help you out?
Not at all.
And you drove home?
Particularly bad
Now, when you
migraine
got
that
home,
night.
your son Colin
So he definitely keyed in on that. So now we know not only did she have a migraine before she came out, it was particularly bad, but she still came out and she still drank 2 glasses of wine, which, as we talked about earlier, people that have migraines don't drink alcohol. They know it makes them worse. So again, this is more fuckery disclaimer, right?
was not there, correct?
Correct.
He was not out with you at the waterfall.
Correct.
He was out that night, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that he stops by your sister-in-law Nicole's house quite a bit, correct?
Yes.
He's very close to Nicole and Brian's kids, correct?
Correct.
He's also very close to his aunt and uncle, Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, correct?
Correct.
So you would have gotten home maybe shortly after 11:10 p.m. approximately?
Around 11, yep, around that.
And that was when you entered an empty house, correct?
My son Dylan was home.
Oh, Dylan was home.
Yes.
But Colin was not.
He was not.
And Colin did not come home at 11:30, correct?
Correct.
He did not come home at 11:45, correct?
Correct.
And when the clock turned midnight, he still wasn't home, correct?
Correct.
Now, at some point, your husband Chris came home, correct?
Yes.
You testified on direct examination that Chris came home at 12:10 a.m. on January 29th.
That's what time I believe he did, yes.
That 12:10 a.m. time, did you discuss that precise time with anybody prior to taking the stand yesterday?
No.
Was that coordinated with anybody such that your husband and you gave the same time, 12:10 a.m.?
No.
With the court's permission, I'd like to play the waterfall volley video. I think it's exhibit 53, just that portion.
There's our sirens like Auntie Deb puts up in his parody videos. Siren. I just blocked my camera because I'm standing up, giving my knee a break. So that's the only reason why I'm not in camera right now, guys. Just trying to stretch my knee.
I'm going to allow my colleagues some time to find this, and I'll move on with my questioning in the meantime. We can have the lights on again. Now, I believe you've testified that the waterfall is very close to the Amy Pizza, correct?
Correct.
But your house on Maple Street is about a half mile away from the waterfall. Would you agree with that?
About that, yes. Maybe a little less, but about that.
All right. Would you agree it's a 7 or 8 minute walk home from the waterfall if you're walking? I realize you were driving, but if somebody were walking, it would be about 7 or 8 minutes?
Maybe a minute or two less.
Okay. So you would say 6 or 7 minutes would be a better estimate to cover that half mile?
Depends on how fast you walk, yes.
And it was snowing that night, correct?
Correct.
The ground was a little bit slippery?
Yes.
If I need some more. If I could have the lights dimmed again. This is the exhibit I'd like to show you, ma'am. And if you pause 1 second. Do you recognize what's depicted in that video? That appear to be the waterfall?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see the time? Do you see the time, 12:13 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, good. You can run that, Mr. Bates. Can you pause it there? I'm going to direct your, do you see where it says CH3?
Yes.
And you see the timestamp up the top, correct?
Yes.
Between those two markers on the video, you're going to see somebody walking by. I'd ask you to pay attention for the next 6 seconds or so. Come on. So, do you recognize that person?
Yes, I believe it's my husband.
If you can run that. Stop. Okay. Would you agree with me that your husband left the waterfall at about 12:13 and 46 seconds?
Well, yes. I mean, that's what it says on the screen.
Okay. So it was closer to 2:14 than to 2:10. Would you agree with that?
12:14, you mean?
You know what? You're right. 12:14 than 12:10.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Thank you. So if he's leaving at around 12:14, and by your testimony, it would have taken him he was walking home. You knew that, correct?
Yes.
He didn't have a car that night.
He did not.
And if it took him 6 or 7 minutes to get home, and by the way, let me strike that question. You had said it takes 6 or 7 minutes. Did you factor in the fact that of the weather that night for your estimate about a 6 or 7 minute walk?
Objection.
Can you answer that question? Is that what you said?
Yes, I didn't factor in the. I don't know.
All right, so your testimony, you don't know if it would have taken him a little bit longer, or anybody.
Everyone walks at a different pace.
Right, but whatever pace they walk at, given what you saw of the weather that night, is it your testimony that maybe it would have taken a little bit longer than the estimate?
It could have.
Okay. But in any case, let's leave it at 6 or 7 minutes. That puts your husband coming home at around 12:20 or 12:21, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that 12:10 estimate that you had, you made that estimate before having the benefit of the video, correct?
Correct.
Now, where were you within the house when your husband came home?
In my room. Bedroom? Upstairs in my bedroom.
And you share a bedroom with your husband?
Yes.
And when was the first time that you saw him within the house?
He came up to the bedroom.
Okay, so you were in the bedroom and you see him appear in the bedroom?
Correct.
Did you hear the door open way down on the first floor?
Yes.
Okay. And it would have taken him maybe about a minute to get upstairs? It wasn't very long?
It wouldn't be very long, no.
Okay. And when he got upstairs, you noticed that he was in wet clothing, correct?
Yes.
He appeared to be cold?
Yes.
And he got undressed, correct?
Yes.
Did he brush his teeth before bed?
I think he got right into bed.
Okay, so you didn't see him brush his teeth or wash up?
No.
And were you in the bed when he came into the bed to go to sleep?
Okay, so I have to say something about this. So she definitely.
I was sitting up in bed. Yes.
So she remembers that her husband didn't brush his teeth 2 years ago, right? But we have a count now of up to 15 I don't remembers for all those questions that Yannetti asked her. But yet she remembers that her husband did not brush his teeth. I mean, no, really, seriously. This is just, yeah, that's why we have the Fockery disclaimer. Thank you, James and JFK, for letting us use your disclaimer, because that's ridiculous, right? No one is going to remember if their husband brushed their teeth or not. That's just freaking insane. And then Julie says, so he ran home, walked in the door, and ran into bed with wet clothes. Yeah, basically. When she was on with Lally, she told Lally that he changed his clothes and got right into bed because he was shivering. He was freezing. Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Watching TV?
I was just sitting up in bed praying for my headache to go away.
Oh, okay. So the migraine.
Praying
yes.
for her headache to go away.
Suffering? I had a headache.
Glasses of wine, which makes it way worse.
It was a headache, but I took medicine and I was waiting for it to get better. Yes.
Okay. And that's sort of what you were concentrating on. It's really kind of hard to read or watch TV or concentrate on anything when you have a migraine, right?
Okay. Yes.
Now, you would agree with me that your husband Chris was asleep when Colin came home, correct?
Correct. Disclaimer. That's right.
And as a mother, you couldn't have gone to sleep until you knew your kids were home, correct?
Correct.
And Colin was the remaining child who was out there, which when he came home, that would give you license to go to sleep.
Yes.
Because her prayers would be answered
Now,
and her kids would be home safe and she wouldn't have a migraine.
Colin came home with Chris
I'm not
sleeping.
making
It's fair to say,
fun of anyone who has migraine.
This was just an ordinary weekend night, correct?
The fact that she
How do you?
Well,
went drinking when she had a migraine.
That anything tragic had occurred or was alleged to have occurred, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't like you were paying attention to the clock at that point and recording your memories as best you could because you knew you'd be testifying later, correct?
Correct.
Which also explains the 12:10 estimate, right? I mean, you're being asked about, times that things occurred, and it was just sort of an ordinary day, right? So it's difficult to pinpoint times, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, directing your attention to the next morning, you missed a phone call from your best friend, Jennifer McCabe, correct?
Correct.
And you believe that phone call, I think according to your memory, yesterday came in at 5:55 p.m., correct? I'm sorry, 5:55 a.m., correct?
Correct.
That was the time that you gave Mr. Lally when he asked you a question on direct examination, correct?
Correct.
And you were able to recall that time nearly 2 years later, correct?
Yes.
But regarding the 67 phone calls between you and Courtney Proctor that happened after that, you're not able to recall any of those, correct?
There you go, you nutty.
I just don't remember them.
Just don't remember them.
All right, in any case, January 29th
I
was
remember
your nephew
my
Brian
husband didn't
Albert
brush his
Jr.'s
teeth.
birthday, correct?
Yes.
That's why you
I
went
don't
to the
remember
fair
talking to
meeting.
Courtney
Yes.
Proctor
When you pulled into the
66
driveway,
times.
there was nothing unusual to you, correct?
Correct.
This was just your brother-in-law Brian and your sister-in-law Nicole's house with snow around, correct?
Yes.
There were no police on scene?
No.
There was no tent protecting the front lawn, correct?
Correct.
No crime scene stapled anywhere or taped anywhere, correct?
Correct.
Nobody appeared to be standing guard over the front yard, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see any shard of glass, right?
No, I did not.
You didn't see 45 pieces of taillight strewn about the lawn, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you didn't see any pieces of taillight, correct?
I don't recall seeing anything.
And you didn't suspect that 34 Fairview was a crime scene, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
There was nothing that prevented you from walking all over that front lawn, correct?
Correct.
It was still snowing out?
Yes.
Brian Albert, when you approached the house, he opened the door, correct?
I approached the car, not the house.
Okay. You approached, whose car was it?
My nephew Brian's.
Brian's
In the driveway. Yes.
All right. And then Brian Albert opened the door of the house.
The side door of the home. Yes.
All right. So can I have exhibit 8, please, with the court's permission?
Yes.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, side door. Okay. I didn't remember that from when she said to Lally. I thought they said the front door, but I don't think they specified which door.
Could we zoom in just a little bit? That's it. I'm so bad at this. Jeez. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. All right. That I'm highlighting now is the front door to the house, correct?
Yes.
And if we move along exhibit 8 to the right, is that the side door?
Yes.
And that's the door that Brian Albert appeared from?
Yes.
And
right.
You were able to
Breezeway,
see him
yep.
from the outside of the house, correct?
Yes.
And you were over to this area?
Yes.
Do you recall, is it one of those 2 cars that's in exhibit 8 that you approached with the Dunkin' Donuts?
I can't make out what the cars are.
Okay. But it was either one of those 2 cars or a car that was parked in one of those 2 places.
Yes.
All right. And then did you go in that side door to go into the house?
Yes.
Fair to say that family has lived there for quite a while, correct?
Yes.
You knew that prior to Brian Albert and Nicole, I'm sorry. That's really bad form to block a jury. I'm so sorry. It's good I didn't trip.
I love it when he says fair to say.
Door that is the front door. Having been familiar with that house for a long time, you've gone in that front door before, correct?
Yes.
And you know that when you go in the front door of that house, you come into a little foyer area, correct?
Correct.
And then almost within arm's distance to the left is the door to the basement, correct?
Walking in the front door, arm's distance to the left.
Yes. In other words, you walk into the house.
Yep.
And then the door to the basement, going down to the basement, is right there on the left, correct?
That's incorrect. To the left of the library.
All right. Where is the door to the basement?
You walk in the front door. You step to the right. Walk a few steps towards the kitchen, and the basement door is on the left before you enter the kitchen.
All right. But the kitchen's off to the left, correct?
No. When you walk in the front door, the library is on the left. There's another room on the left.
Okay.
So you walk in, you immediately see a staircase in front of you.
Yeah.
And to the left is the library.
Right.
If you go to the right,
I'm sorry, go
if you go to the right, you can go into the part of the kitchen where the kitchen table is, or you can not go to the right. You can walk straight. And as you're walking, there's a door on the left, and that's where the basement door is.
Okay, so I think we're getting to what I was getting at. If you walk straight ahead, there's a door to the left that goes down to the basement, correct?
Correct. Yes.
We have the left. And when you were walking toward that side door, you didn't see any emergency or police vehicles outside, correct?
No, I did not.
You didn't see any first responders other than Brian Albert, correct?
Correct.
There were no lights flashing outside the house, correct?
Correct.
And inside, you saw Nicole Albert?
Yes.
So I just want to point out that in a normal police investigation, in a death investigation, or what they presumed was probably going to be a death investigation, given what they knew was his status being loaded in the ambulance, you would never leave this scene unprotected. They made it out like they couldn't put up crime scene tape because it was too windy. That's all a bunch of crap. There's ways if you have to call in bodies because you can't effectively put up crime scene tape, then you get bodies. You call another agency to come and back you up. When she arrived there between 8 and 8:30, there is no way that scene should have been released just to anybody to do anything to it, to trample through it, to plant evidence, so that in a normal police situation, when she arrived, there would have been police on the scene. There would have been crime tape placed. They had it still boggles my mind. But again, I don't believe that they were bad cops, that they screwed up that bad. I believe it was all purposeful. So just wanted to remind everybody of that's why she didn't see anything, because there was no crime scene tape. There was no securing of the scene, which is just sad and despicable.
Brian Albert?
Yes.
Jennifer McCabe?
Yes.
Matt McCabe?
Yes.
And Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
How long did you spend at the house that morning?
I don't remember exactly, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. I don't remember exactly.
And the 7 of you were discussing what had happened, correct?
Yes.
At some point, it was decided that Jennifer McCabe should contact Michael Lank of the Canton Police, correct?
Objection.
I'll let, if this witness knows independently. Can you repeat that once more, please?
At some point, it was decided among the 7 of you that Jennifer McCabe should contact Michael Lank of the Canton Police Department.
Yeah.
I don't remember who
So
exactly
many things
Jennifer
they
decided.
should have and
Yeah, I
could
don't
have done,
remember
but we didn't
exactly
want to.
the discussion.
You knew Michael
Right,
Lank,
Julie?
correct?
Yes.
And at 8:53 a.m.,
Ron knows
you
that.
sent to Jennifer McCabe
We
Michael
all
Lank's
know that.
personal cell phone number, correct?
Correct.
And did you then see Jennifer McCabe delete that text message from you?
Objection.
You were contacted by the Massachusetts State Police this year about your phone, correct?
Correct.
They left you a voicemail on March 21st of 2024?
The state police?
Yes.
About my telephone?
Well, they left you a voicemail on March 21st of 2024. You had contact with the state police this year.
Yes.
And they left you a second voicemail on March 25 and then called you again on March 28.
Yes.
You told them that you were sick and you would speak to them on April 1st, correct?
Correct.
And then the state police called you on April 1st, but you did not pick up. Do you recall that?
I do not.
They called you again that same day and you didn't respond, correct?
I don't recall.
But you did learn that they had called your husband on April 1st looking for you, correct?
I don't recall.
All right. After speaking with your husband, you texted the Massachusetts State Police on April 1st, correct?
I think around that. I don't know the exact date.
All right. And you finally met with the Massachusetts State Police on April 3rd of 2024, correct?
I would assume. I don't know the exact date, but yes.
And during that meeting, the state police looked through your phone for a contact that you would have had with Mike Proctor, correct?
Correct.
Did they seize your phone?
No, they did not.
Did they tell you that they had a search warrant for your phone?
No, they did not.
Did they take it back, saying that they had to give it to some experts to do an extraction?
Objection.
Sustained.
They just looked through it after you handed it to them, correct?
Correct.
Then they gave it back.
Yes.
Now, with regard to your contact with Karen on January 28th, it was clear to you that Karen did not appear to be under the influence, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see her stumbling, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see her swaying.
Correct.
She was not unbalanced.
No.
She was not slurring her words.
No.
She was not talking gibberish.
No.
She was engaging in normal conversation.
Yes.
And she held the conversation perfectly fine.
Yes.
She appeared to be under control, correct?
Yes.
She was affectionate with John that night.
Objection.
I didn't come in contact with them like that.
But yet they tried to make it out like, remember when Bukaki was on the stand and they pointed out that they thought she had paid for and ordered 9 drinks. So they were trying to make it out like she would have been super intoxicated, but yet none of the witnesses at the beginning, the friends that were in the bar, everybody that was asked about her behavior, was she swaying? Was she slurring her words? They're all saying no. So, you'd think if they wanted them to lie about something, it would have been that, since they're being evasive and lying about so many other things, but yet everybody told the truth about the fact that she didn't appear to be drunk or slurring her words or staggering or anything like that.
The two of them certainly were not arguing.
No, not that I saw.
You didn't see any tension between them, correct?
No.
And I mean, given your family's connection to law enforcement, you would not knowingly let someone drive a car if they were under the influence, correct?
Objection.
Everyone appeared to be having a good time that night. Correct?
Yes.
And that included John and Karen, from what you could see, correct?
For the 10 15 minutes I was there, yes.
Now, after you left the waterfall, it's fair to say that you didn't know precisely where your son Colin was that night, correct?
I knew where he was.
Where was he?
He was at his friend Michael Leonetti's. He left Michael Leonetti's to stop to say happy birthday to my nephew Brian at 34 Fairview Road.
Okay. And you learned that from him, correct?
Yes.
So you had learned that Colin was at 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022, correct?
January 28th.
So is it your testimony that you know that Colin left on Friday night as opposed to after midnight on January 29th?
I don't understand what you're asking.
What just occurred is I asked you whether you knew that your son Colin was at your sister-in-law Nicole's and your brother-in-law Brian Albert's house on January 29th, and you just corrected.
I'm sorry, it was after midnight. Okay. So I got confused. I apologize.
Not a problem. So the answer to my question is you learned that he was there on January 29th, correct?
Yes, after midnight.
And you now know that that is the same house outside which John O'Keefe was found dead that morning, correct?
Yes, I do.
And one last question. You were interviewed by Trooper Proctor, and it's fair to say you never told him that Colin was there that night, correct?
I don't recall my interview.
But she remembers her husband did not brush his teeth. She doesn't recall an interview about a murder or about a potential murder.
Point is out.
Good morning.
Now, with reference
Whoops.
to, you were asking a question about 67
Sorry about
calls
that.
over a period from February to September.
Want to make sure I got
Balanced.
No.
She was not slurring her words.
No.
She was not talking gibberish.
No.
She was engaging in normal conversation.
Yes.
And she
Okay,
held the
we got
conversation
that.
perfectly fine.
Just want to make sure I didn't accidentally hit the button. Okay. So this is, we're almost done. There's like 6
Now, with
minutes.
reference to, you were asking a question about 67 calls over a period from February to September, correct?
Correct.
That's about 7
Ooh,
months.
Lally's
Yes.
very red.
110 days or so.
He's
Yes.
not happy
Do you
about
have other
something.
friends besides Ms. Rocket?
Yes.
And versus some of your other friends, as far as those phone calls, 67 times over 210 days, is that more so, less so, or on average with?
Less so.
And at no point in time did you speak to Ms. Proctor that you recall about this case or talk to Ms. Proctor outside of that interview?
Correct.
In the interview that you had with Ms. Proctor, there was another trooper present, correct?
Yes.
And you would just ask some questions about meeting with some other troopers this year in 2024, correct?
Correct.
And fair to say none of those troopers was Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
It also wasn't the trooper that was with Trooper Proctor when you spoke to him.
Correct.
And they asked you questions. You had at least 2 interviews with them, is that correct?
Correct.
And you voluntarily went to those interviews?
Yes.
You answered the questions?
Yes.
They asked for your phone?
Yes. When I was sitting there, they looked at my phone. Yes.
So they asked for your phone, you provided your phone?
Yes.
Voluntarily, nobody threatened you with a search warrant or anything like that?
No.
You were asking questions about timing. I promise there's no math. I'm not asking you this, but you've had to walk outside when it's cold outside, correct?
Yes.
You tend to walk faster or slower when it's cold outside?
Faster. Me personally.
When you went over to your in-laws' house on the morning of January 29th to drop off donuts for your nephew, you weren't expecting to go inside, correct?
Correct.
You weren't expecting to be standing around talking to people about a friend of yours potentially having died at that point.
No. No.
Nothing further.
May we approach?
Okay. Does everybody stand up?
Let's go forward. I think we're just about done with her.
Supervisor Jury. Just hold your notebooks up, please. Hold your notebook.
Oh, hang on a second. Not sure what's going on.
You learned that he was there on January 29th, correct?
Yes. After midnight.
And you now know that that is the same house outside which?
Your phone?
Yes. When I was sitting there, they looked at my phone. Yes.
So they asked for your phone, you provided your phone?
Yes.
Voluntarily, nobody threatened you with a search warrant or anything like that?
No.
Just want to make sure we don't miss anything. This is the very end of her testimony. I'm not
You asked some
sure
questions
what
about
happens.
timing. I promise there's no math. I'm not asking
The
you this,
jury
but,
being asked to leave.
you've had to walk outside when it's
We're
cold outside,
dear.
correct?
That's right.
Yes.
You tend to walk faster or slower when it's cold outside?
Faster. Me personally.
When you went over to your in-laws' house on the morning of January 29th to drop off donuts for your nephew, you weren't expecting to go inside, correct?
Correct.
You weren't expecting to be standing around talking to people about a friend of yours potentially having died at that point.
No. No.
Nothing further. May we approach?
Okay. Does everybody stand up?
So I don't remember what is this? Is this it for her, Julie? Then I don't remember what this voir dire was all about here. Does anyone else remember? I'm gonna fast forward and see what we got going on here now. But yeah, you're right, Julie. That's because they dismissed the jury. There's the fan. Oh, they must have. That was a long time that we're looking at the fan. Oh, yeah, this is when the whole Turtle Boy exclusion. Okay, so I guess that is it for Julie. But we don't really see her being dismissed, which is weird. But yeah, that's what happens next. So we will watch that next Friday, and then we go right into Nicole. She comes up right away. So wow, okay, we made it. We did it, guys. Thank you very much. Excellent job tonight, everybody who was here with us live. Thanks for those of you that commented, and just for those of you that stuck with us for the whole live show. I really appreciate it. Everybody on replay, thank you. Appreciate it that you want to help us out. If you have any comments or questions that you want us to address next week, just leave them in the chat of the replay. I really appreciate that. Let me remove that. So it was pretty much everything I remembered. And I think for all of you watching, it was too. The count ended up to be, 17, but I mean, I don't know if I caught them all, but 17, I don't remember. But again, like I said, she remembered that her husband didn't brush his teeth. I mean, it's ludicrous, right? The things they expect us to believe in this trial with these witnesses. It's just beyond comprehension in a lot of ways. So, yeah, so that was really good. And I'll put up the poll tomorrow on Twitter X for, did she tell the 100% truth? Was she evasive? Did she lie? And then you have the choice of evasive and lying. So you can choose B and C. So if you're on Twitter X, please take that poll for me. That'd be great. If you're not, it's no worries, no problem whatsoever. So we start out next week with this verdier that's going on with Turtle Boy being asked to leave and his lawyer. That was quite something when that happened. And then Nicole is up next. So we'll see. I mean, her testimony is pretty long, longer than I thought it was, but we should be able, we'll get through her for sure. We may be able to start Brian Albert. It'd be kind of fun to start him on Valentine's Day on my birthday. That would be kind of cool. And remember, we'll start at 9 instead of 8. So that way, in case I do decide to do early dinner instead of lunch, we will start at 9. So 9 o'clock, and I'll make sure and put that on all my socials, Facebook and Twitter X too, that we're going to start at 9 next Friday night, and it'll be Nicole and Brian Albert. So we're moving right along. We're getting up there now. This will be interesting. He was, in my opinion, I mentioned this a couple times in other people's live chats, that you're trained as a police officer, how to go to court, how to maintain composure, not to let the lawyers get to you or get in your head. Just, state what you know, state what you did, just like when you write your police reports, you're telling the truth, and you stay calm. So there's tricks, to staying calm, to reminding yourself, don't let me get going. When I went to the Volusia County Sheriff's with Kara Veach a few weeks ago now, we met with a captain and lieutenant because she had a lot of questions about her husband's death and why the prosecutors chose not to charge the hatchet man, as she calls him, the man who was in a verbal argument with her husband. They had both been drinking. Jason had been drinking more. He was considerably more drunk. And Kara has always admitted that and said she did not agree with her husband getting that drunk and starting basically a verbal altercation with this gentleman in the bar. But that's what he did. But this gentleman claimed to be afraid of him. That was in his interview with the police. So Jason was a very big man, like 6'5", 250. This man was not as tall. He was 70. Jason was only in his late 30s. He claimed to be afraid of him, but yet he left the bar. Jason was sitting in the bar stool, the same place he was when they were yelling at each other and shouting at each other, and went to his car and got a hatchet. For those of you that haven't watched any of our lives with Kara Veach, you might want to go to our library and check these out, because this is just unbelievable. He leaves and goes to his car and brings a hatchet back into the bar. Now, in any other state in America, if you retreat because you're afraid of somebody and you just don't leave, you go get a weapon or what can be used as a weapon and come back into the bar, you are now the aggressor. You are no longer afraid of this person. You are coming in to attack them with a weapon that now makes you the aggressor. But not in the state of Florida. Nope, not in the state of Florida, guys. I was told that I am not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, that this is not Wisconsin, this is not any other state, this is Florida. And we allow people to go out to their cars and bring hatchets back in. No problem. That not going to charge him with anything. And then the people in the few people in the bar that saw him come in with this hatchet, he had it above his head. He actually swung it at Jason. There's witnesses that say this, and he caught the corner of the bar and left a mark. So we will be talking with Kara again next week, Thursday night, on our Calling Out Corruption show. And she finally got the unredacted police report, but there's several areas that are redacted. And when we were there that day meeting with this captain lieutenant, she asked him, why is my police report still redacted? You've closed my husband's case. You're telling me that the prosecutors have declined to prosecute Hatchet Man, or the other man that held her husband down, and then he ended up dying of asphyxiation. Coroner's report, plain as day, sitting right here on my desk, says homicide. Right? So nothing adds up. And now she's got an unredacted police report that still has redactions, which we've asked them a bunch of times to explain. Now they finally just sent another set of explanations that is nothing like the first set they sent and makes even less sense. I saw it when I saw the copy of it. Kara texted it to me. So we have a lot to update you on his case and what next steps are for her, because we've exhausted everything with the Volusia County. They're not going to reopen it. They just won't do it. So they claim that because there were the cameras weren't working, that they couldn't do a very thorough investigation. Do you know how many crimes happen without cameras? Where the police have to do a good old fashioned investigation, relying on witnesses and common sense and what the 1 + 2 equals, 1 + 1 = 2. There's a lot of crimes that don't happen on camera. That was what I was told by the detective. So we will update you. Kara will come on live with us next week, probably Thursday night. We'll do calling out corruption with Kara. We may even have Michelle come on and give us, there's a little bit of an update with Sarah Ebersol as well, something new that her and I kind of came up with. So we might have both of them back on, but definitely Kara. And then Wednesday night for my Angry Bitch Club, which is my female centered night, my dear friend Levita, who made a documentary with me about her survival of domestic violence, she will be on with me. We're going to show the documentary that her and I made together 2 years ago, and she's going to answer questions if anyone has any questions for her. And she's a fantastic human, and she got the chance to survive. It was a miracle because, as we know, Sandra Birchmore, Ellen Greenberg, Suzanne Morphew, Suzanne Clark Simpson, now the case in Arizona, Texas. I think it's Texas. We know that they did not have the chance to survive. They were overpowered by their husbands or their fiancés, and they were killed. So we are standing for them, standing for justice for all of them. And in Levita's case, she was able to escape and get away. So she's going to share how scary that was with us. We're going to show her documentary. So that'll be next Wednesday on the Angry Bitch Club. Hope you can join us. Thursday will be Kara, possibly Michelle. And then Friday we'll be back with Friday Night Lives on my birthday. And we'll be doing Nicole and Brian Albert. So thank you everyone that subs on my channel. I really appreciate it. This is my volunteer retirement mission that I wanted to be able to help out with my past careers of policing and social work and even journalism from when I was very young, and do something for communities, do something to help families who are suffering, putting myself in their shoes of what that would be like to have a loved one either missing or having been unalived by someone else and having no justice. And I watched the tribute to Just en Route. It was just heartbreaking that they could shoot that young man who was having mental health conditions at the time 31 times, and there's no justice for her family. It's just really heartbreaking for his sister and the family. And the same with Anne Marie, her brother Thomas Purdy, and they're originally from Massachusetts. He was killed in Reno, Nevada. She was our very first calling out corruption live stream. So I would like to get those two ladies back one night, because they have a foundation that they started with a lot of other survivors, family members, the family members of people that were killed while in police custody. And they have a foundation that they've started. So I'd like to bring them back on. I'll hopefully get a hold of them soon, and we can try for March, because they really deserve to talk about what happened to their loved ones. And that's the only way we're ever going to end this overreach that happens in some police departments, is if we keep talking about it and calling it out and honoring those that have passed. So that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, exactly, Julie. Walking into alleged danger, perfectly cool in Florida. Right. And there's something else I'll talk about next week. There was and this has nothing to do with politics per se, but it happened at a voting area. A teenager came to a voting area. He was wearing, I don't know if he had Trump clothes on or not, but he was definitely a Republican, I guess. And because he brought a machete and he was threatening women that were there to vote, I believe, in the election. So, or it was a rally. I don't know that much about it. I just heard about it because I was trying to figure out, when the police officer told me that there's no statute and no law to charge Hatchet Man with bringing a hatchet, because you can bring weapons into bars in Florida, apparently. And so I'm trying to dispute that. So I was looking for anything that I could find where this law was put into place and a person was arrested. Well, yes, Machete Kid was arrested for wielding a dangerous weapon in public. So how is a hatchet in a bar above his head, which hits the bar right where Jason was sitting, not wielding a dangerous weapon? Why are we not charging him with that, Volusia County? So I will get more into that case just so that I can get answers for Kara. So we will be in touch about Kara next week. And thank you everybody that was with me live tonight. Thank you everyone on replay. And I am going to play out we have two two videos now, thanks to our creative department. One is for Thursday nights for calling out corruption and for Friday nights. And then one is just for Wednesday nights for women empowerment. So I played the Thursday night version at the beginning, and I'm going to take us home tonight with the Wednesday night version. And love to know your thoughts, your opinions. I love them both. So I wanted to show you, since the next time we'll be together will be Wednesday night with Levita and her documentary on survival of domestic violence. So we're going to take you out with the women empowerment video for our Wednesday night Angry Bitch Club. And I'll see you all next week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, whatever it is you're doing or you love to do, be with your families. De-stress from following true crime because it's a lot and you have to take care of yourself. Self-care is super important if you're going to stand for victims of crimes and their families. You have to do the self-care. It's super important. So I'll look forward to being with you all again next week. I appreciate all your support. It really means a lot to me and everyone that follows all the families. And I have to switch back to Packers because I just do. You know, I'm still praying that maybe before I die, I'll get to see a Super Bowl again. I want to see us in the Super Bowl again. It's been too long now. It's just been way too long. Those were exciting times because when I was little, we were never very good. So getting to see us play in the Super Bowl when I was in my 40s was pretty exciting. I guess 30s and 40s. But now, you know, we haven't been back for a while. So hopefully, the Chiefs are my second favorite team, but let's go Pack. Let's go next year. Go Pack, go. We got to get back to the Super Bowl. All right. So enjoy our new theme song for Wednesday nights. And the one, if you were curious and you came in late, the one at the beginning of the show is going to be our theme song for Thursdays and Fridays. So it's a similar song done a little bit differently, sung a little bit differently. And again, thank you, everyone. So enjoy your weekend and enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll see you next week.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge and name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered, it's the cry we sing for the ones they try to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run or hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives, we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life matters, it's the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a